Chapter 56:18. Hearing that the other party was not an old monster from 10,000 years ago, they all heaved a sigh of relief. However, when they heard the other party's request, the Shueiyuan people's expressions turned ugly. Shui Yunru said, "Young master, don't worry. You saved us, so I will fulfill my promise. However, young master, please follow me back to the family. I want to thank you properly." "No need. Let's just stay here." Lin Xian frowned. He didn't know what would happen after he went back. However, the people from the Shueiyuan clan were surprised and had strange expressions on their faces. Lin Xian frowned. "What's wrong?" Shui Yunru said, "Young master, you don't know. How can we carry immortal techniques with us? Although we can cultivate them, we can't pass them to you. If you want to see them, you have to go back to the family. Only the family's Khanate stone tablet has immortal techniques recorded." Lin Xian frowned when he heard that. "It can't be." He snorted coldly. "Do you think I'm easy to fool? I've seen someone use their soul to impart immortal techniques to me before. You can't even give me a scroll?" Shui Yunru said, "You're talking about a quasi-emperor senior, right? After becoming a quasi-emperor, you can indeed impart your immortal techniques to others. However, young master, do you think any of us are quasi-emperors? At most, we're Triple Crown champions." Lin Xian was shocked to hear that. There was such a thing. He asked DeLong said, "Indeed, the deity ground is different from other places in the universe. You can find out the strength of the Shueiyuan people. If they're not too terrifying, you can go there." Lin Xian nodded, indicating that he understood. He asked around and found out that the Shueiyuan people did have quasi-emperors. However, there were no quasi-emperors. This made him feel relieved. He came with an extreme weapon. Even if they shed all pretense of cordiality, it wouldn't be easy for them to kill him. At most, he could take the sky-devouring crown and leave through the void. Without any worries, Lin Xian nodded. He said, "Okay, then I'll go back with you." Many people were surprised. This person really dared to go back. Wasn't he afraid that he wouldn't be able to come out? Lin Xian, on the other hand, was calm. "What are you waiting for? Lead the way." "Yes, young master, don't be anxious. We'll leave now." Shui Yunru regained her senses. They led the way and respectfully invited Lin Xian back. Along the way, Lu Qianzhong's expression was unsightly because he realized that Shui Yunru's attitude towards him had changed. Previously, Shui Yunru was very polite to him and relied on him for everything. However, things were different now. The other party had been hovering around Lin Xian. That kind of smile and amiable attitude was something he had never experienced before. This made him incomparably jealous. He had always been pursuing Shui Yunru. Although he didn't succeed, he felt that he was about to succeed. However, he didn't expect that he would fail at the last step. Thinking of this, he looked at Lin Xian with an even colder gaze. "Humph, stupid thing, as long as you're not an old monster, you're dead. So, what if you save Shui Yunru? If you covet the Aqua Cloud Clan's immortal arts, I think even 10 lives won't be enough for you." After flying for about 5 days, a team appeared in front of them. It was the Water Cloud Tribe's team. They were here to rescue him. When they received the news, they immediately rushed over. The journey was long, and they could only come here. Fortunately, it was more daunting than dangerous. When they found out what had happened, they were furious. The raging Inferno tribe was too arrogant. They definitely wouldn't let them go. "Just you wait. Yun-Er, we will definitely take revenge for this." Those experts gritted their teeth. When they saw Lin Xian, they were first filled with gratitude. However, when they heard Lin Xian's request, their faces turned gloomy. What? A hot-tempered person was furious. "Brat, are you asking for too much? Change your request, or you will regret it." "What? Are you going back on your words?" Lin Xian sneered and looked at Shui Yunru. Shui Yunru's expression changed. She said, Seniors, please listen to me. She brought a few experts over and whispered. She said, the situation was urgent, and I swore on my martial path. Seniors, please forgive me. I have to bring this Lin Gongzi over. After hearing that, those people sighed. All right, we'll act according to the situation. Even if this brat saw it, he wouldn't be able to walk out alive. After another 2 days, they returned to their tribe. When they returned, the Shuiyun tribe received the news. They were shocked and furious. They looked at Lin Xian with strange expressions. There were even some young geniuses who were deliberately looking for trouble. However, because Shui Yunru was by their side, they didn't have the chance to fight. Lin Xian didn't mind. Although the immortal technique was a secret of every tribe, since he had agreed he had to keep his word. After all, Lin Xian wasn't idle. He wouldn't go around saving people. Previously, he had risked defending a powerful tribe to save them. Therefore, this request wasn't too much. Shui Yunru also knew this, so she had been trying her best to mediate. However, it seemed that she was unable to do so. In addition, Lu Qianzhong was secretly fanning the flames. This made the Shuiyun tribe even angrier at Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't care about this at all. First, he had made a decision with Shui Yunru. Second, he wanted to see an immortal technique. As for what immortal technique it was, he didn't care. In the main hall, the elders of the Shuiyun tribe gathered to discuss this matter. An outsider wanted to see their immortal technique. This was something that had never happened since the beginning of the world. Roa was too reckless. Some people also said that if this brat hadn't helped back then, he would have gone to hell by now. Therefore, in a way, they did have to thank this brat. However, this brat didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Although he was their savior, he shouldn't be so arrogant. Let's talk to him one last time and see if he's willing to change his condition. If he's willing, give him some heavenly treasures and ask him to scram. If he's not willing, then don't blame us. The conversation here was extremely secret. However, they didn't know that Lin Xian had seen it. Lin Xian's Rinnegan bloomed with endless light. It seemed to have passed through the void of the universe. Seeing this scene, his face darkened. Biting the hand that fed him? First, he went back on his word. Now, he bit the hand that fed him. The people of the deity land were just SOSO. In this case, he wouldn't be polite. He took a deep breath and exerted the power of the Rinnegan to the extreme. At the same time, the seed of divine flame between his eyebrows bloomed. That power combined with the Rinnegan. He began to search the entire Shuiyun tribe. Finally, his eyes bloomed with light, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Found it! He saw a few stone steels in the depths of the Shuiyun tribe. Those stone steels were Khanate great daos with extremely terrifying runes on them. The immortal technique should be recorded on them. Thinking of this, Lin Xian stood up. Since these people didn't agree, he would go and see it himself. Chapter 56:19. The eighth elder's face was gloomy. With his hands behind his back, he led the two middle-aged men to the courtyard in the distance. Stepping on the path made of divine crystals, his eyes flickered. He was thinking about how to say something to scare the young man, so that he would not be so arrogant. They would definitely not allow the immortal techniques to be spread. When they arrived outside the courtyard, a middle-aged man walked out and said, "Lin Gongzi, the eighth elder is here to visit. Get ready." His voice was clearly heard inside, but there was no response. This made the eighth elder frown. This young man was really arrogant. Did he think that he could be so arrogant after saving Shui Yunru? Humph, he would let him know that it was not so easy to take advantage of the Shuiyun clan. Thinking of this, he snorted coldly and gave a look. The middle-aged man beside him quickly walked forward and opened the array with a palm. The eighth elder walked in and looked around, but he was stunned. There was no one. The two of you go and investigate. Don't let go of any place. With an order, the two middle-aged men moved like lightning. They left countless afterimages and searched in all directions. However, they did not find anyone, which made them frown. Eighth elder, there was no one. The eighth elder was stunned. Then he laughed. Humph, I thought it was an arrogant kid, but now it seems that he was just a coward. He probably ran away because he was afraid. Let's go, no need to bother. The eighth elder's mood became very good. He had chased away an arrogant kid for the clan, which could be considered as a merit. When he returned, his status should be able to rise. He returned to the main hall proudly. In the depths of the Shueyun clan, there were arrays everywhere. There were 12 laws of water in front, which surrounded each other like the Milky Way. It formed a great array of heavenly water. The array was extremely mysterious and coordinated with each other. It could stop a quasi-emperor. No wonder there were no guards around, because there was no need at all. At this moment, a figure appeared outside the great array of heavenly water. It was Lin Xian. Lin Xian did not run away. He had received the news in advance. He knew that the Shueyun clan wanted to go back on their word, so he was prepared to do it himself. However, he did not expect this array to be so terrifying. However, he soon snorted coldly. So what if it was terrifying? They could stop a quasi-emperor, but they could not stop him. He took a deep breath, and a terrifying sword, aura, appeared in his hand. It kept flashing and then slashed forward. With a swoosh, the sword chi slashed into the heavenly water array. The Milky Way of the heavenly water kept tumbling. Honestly speaking, even a quasi-emperor's attack might sink into the sea here. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was incomparably sharp, capable of slicing through the void. No matter how terrifying the heavenly water array was, it was gradually broken apart by the invincible sword chi. Not long after, the first sky water Milky Way split open, and Lin Xian walked in. Next, he continued to attack. Wherever the sword chi went, it was unparalleled. Nothing could stop it. Finally, a crack appeared in the heavenly water grate formation. Lin Xian walked to the front and put away his sword art. He looked at the Khanate Dao steels in front of him. The laws revolved around it, causing one to faint just by looking at it. How mysterious! Lin Xian was astonished. Was this an immortal technique? It was indeed powerful. Those below the quasi-emperor level would faint just by looking at it. It seemed that those below the quasi-emperor level could not come here to learn it personally. It should be a quasi-emperor imparting the technique. Only a true quasi-emperor could come here and learn the real Khanate immortal technique. Although Lin Xian was not a quasi-emperor, his strength was not weaker than an ordinary quasi-emperor. In addition, he had the Rinnegan, so he was fully qualified to stand here. The Rinnegan bloomed, and Lin Xian began to explore the secrets on the Khanate Dao steels. Next, his palms continuously formed one magical seal after another. He began to cultivate the immortal technique. He saw that this heavenly steels was a sword art called the True Water Sword Art. This sword art was good at using softness to overcome hardness, silently killing the enemy. All of Lin Xian's previous attacks were bold and fierce. He just happened to lack this sword art. Therefore, Lin Xian instantly decided to cultivate this True Water Sword Art. He knew that he could not cultivate all of these Khanate Dao steels. He could only choose one. After all, the Shueyun clan was not to be trifled with. It would not be long before they found out that the heavenly water array had been broken. Lin Xian's guess was not wrong. There was a special person watching the heavenly water array. However, at this moment, the guardian elder was not there. To be precise, he was asleep. There was no other way. As the guardian of the array, Elder Hai had been hacking for more than 1,800 years. To be honest, it was really boring. Usually, there was nothing to do because no one dared to come here and behave atrociously. Not to mention the heavenly water array, which was incomparably terrifying. Even a quasi-emperor could not enter. Other than cultivating here, he could only drink. This time, he used a 10,000-year-old heaven and earth treasure to refine a pot of good wine. It was named Drunken Immortal. One could imagine the name. After Elder High finished drinking, he was drunk. He was drunk for a few days. When he woke up, he yawned. It was really comfortable. This feeling could not only get drunk but also cultivate in a drunken dream. He felt that his nomological laws had improved by a lot. It seemed that he should brew a few more pots of Drunken Immortal next time. Elder High got up. His body emitted a blue light, and an illusion of the sea surrounded him. Suddenly, he was stunned. What was going on? There was a problem with the heavenly water array. That was impossible. Elder High thought that he had not sobered up yet, so he opened his eyes wide with all his might. When he saw a figure in the heavenly water array, he felt like he was struck by lightning. Damn it, how did someone enter? Who was it? Only 2 people could enter the heavenly water array. They were the 2 quasi-emperors. Of the 2 quasi-emperors of the heavenly water clan, one was out and the other was in seclusion. They would not come out for a while. How could someone enter? Could it be that a disciple of the clan sneaked in? However, that was even more impossible. The heavenly water array could not enter under the heavenly water array. Therefore, she was instantly furious. It was an outsider. She shouted angrily. Who was it? Barging into the array. This voice transformed into a thunderclap from the 9th heaven and spread in all directions. The entire Shueyun clan was alarmed. Those elders and disciples looked up at the sky. What was going on? It seemed that there was a problem with the Shueyun array. What? That was the place where the immortal techniques were stored. Could something have happened? Let's go and take a look. In an instant, countless figures soared into the sky. The 8th elder and the others also came. They asked, Guardian Elder, what's going on? The Guardian Elder's face was cold. Someone was inside. What? Someone was inside? The surrounding people discussed animatedly as they looked up. Could it be that the patriarch had come out of seclusion? However, when they saw that the figure in front of them was not the patriarch, their faces turned ugly. Who was it? Shui Yinru also came. She looked at the figure in front and said, Why does it look like Lin Gongzi? Chapter 56:20. Which Lin Gongzi? The surrounding people were stunned. The 8th elder's pupils constricted. Impossible! That kid has already left. I personally went to check. Wait, could it be that the kid didn't leave their clan, but went to the forbidden area alone? Damn it, this kid is too daring. The surrounding people also understood. It was actually the kid who saved Shui Yunru. However, they were extremely puzzled. How did he get in? The heavenly water formation was extremely terrifying. Those below the quasi-emperor level couldn't enter. They had checked this kid before and found that he wasn't a quasi-emperor at all. He was just a sacred lord. With such a cultivation level, he would probably be sealed the moment he stepped into the heavenly water formation. What made them even more puzzled was, when did this kid get in? They all looked at Elder High. Elder High's expression changed. He said that it should be a few days ago. Don't bother about these details. Capture him first. We can't let him secretly learn immortal techniques inside. I'll open the heavenly water formation. You guys go in. As he spoke, he formed a seal with his palm. The heavenly water formation in front of him kept spinning and opened up a passage. The 8th elder and the others took the lead. They quickly rushed over. Little thing, get out here. The 8th elder shouted angrily. He stretched out his palm like a monstrous demon claw. He grabbed at the other party. He didn't hold back in this attack. Even if it was a sacred master, if he was hit, his body and soul would be destroyed. The world in front of them shook. A terrifying power spread out and enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian turned his head and frowned. Get lost. With an angry shout, she struck back. The demonic aura on this palm was monstrous. It was like the palm of a demon god. It collided with the other party's attack. The eighth elder instantly vomited blood and flew backward. His hands were broken and turned into a bloody mist. His entire body flew out of the formation like a kite with a broken string. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were shocked. How could the eighth elder be injured? He couldn't beat the other party. How strong is this kid? Another 3 elders rushed over. The 3 of them worked together and attacked Lin Xian with terrifying sword light and blade shadows. They also had the intention to kill. Lin Xian still wasn't afraid. He turned around and waved his hand. Blue sword chi appeared in his hand. As the sword shadows revolved around them, it was like the Milky Way, completely enveloping the attacks of the 3. Then it bound him like a chain. Primordial water. 1000 trick lock. With a single move, he had neutralized all 3 of their attacks. This scene stunned the people outside the array formation. The 3 elders cried out in surprise. You actually know the true water sword technique. They had all gone mad. Damn it. Had this guy completely stolen their immortal techniques? Damn it. Kill him. I can't let him leave here alive. Our immortal techniques cannot be passed to outsiders. The 3 elders shouted angrily. Nomological laws erupted from their bodies as they also unleashed their immortal techniques. One of them displayed the primordial water Aquarius. Another person also used the steaming water sword art, while the last person slashed out with his saber. The seawater in the sky swept out, capable of engulfing everything. The 3 of them unleashed 3 immortal arts. The power of their immortal arts was incredibly terrifying. So, what if his opponent was a Triple Crown champion? He was still going to die. Lin Xian waved his arm again and attacked with the true water sword art. It was like a water dragon that was extraordinarily mighty. It carried the power of the great dragon sword soul, and its power was much stronger than that of the 3 elders. It directly shattered the 3 immortal arts. The 3 elders also vomited blood and were sent flying. Their blood was boiling. The true water sword art was incomparably powerful. Moreover, it used softness to overcome hardness. There were no wounds on their bodies, but they were already seriously injured. Their internal organs were all shattered. This was impossible. She had only practiced it for a few days. How could a sword art be so powerful? One of the elders went crazy. He had cultivated for thousands of years, but he still couldn't defeat the other party. How could they know that although Lin Xian didn't have the immortal chi seed and couldn't fully unleash the power of the immortal arts? However, he had the divine fire seed, and his strength had long surpassed these people. Moreover, Lin Xian's great dragon sword soul was unparalleled in combat strength. Fusing it with the sword art was not something these people could imagine. The power of the immortal arts was really not bad. Lin Xian was very satisfied with the true water sword art. Outside, the people of the Shuiyun clan had indeed gone crazy. Damn it, go and get the patriarch. They felt that they couldn't do anything to the other party at all. The young man in front of them was very terrifying. Therefore, they had to ask the patriarch for help. Some of them rushed outside, while Lin Xian strode out in large strides. Stop him. Don't let him out of the array. Elder Hai hurriedly closed the array, but it was still too late. The demon god wings rushed out from Lin Xian's back, and his speed was extremely fast. In an instant, before the array was closed, he rushed out. Stop him. Don't let him run away. The surrounding elders rushed over, covering the sky and covering the earth. There were over 100 of them. In the distance, there were even more. Tens of thousands of Shuiyun clan warriors and geniuses soared into the sky. They covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping Lin Xian. The laws that filled the sky all attacked Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. True water sword art, true water barrier. 5 streaks of blue sword chi shot out from his 5 fingers. As it surrounded him, it formed a terrifying true water vortex. Like a natural barrier, it blocked his side. Using softness to overcome hardness to defend. How could he be so powerful? The elders of the Shuayan clan went crazy. They outnumbered the other party by tens of thousands, but they couldn't do anything to him. This could only mean that the other party's strength far exceeded theirs. Could it be that he was a quasi-emperor? But they didn't feel the emperor's aura at all. Thinking of this, they all went crazy. At this moment, a cold snort came from the sky. Who is it? Do you want to die? How dare you behave so atrociously in my Shuayan clan? As soon as the voice fell, the monstrous sea turned into a saber light that slashed over in the air. Lin Xian roared and punched out. Boom! The golden fist descended like the sun, evaporating the surrounding seawater. The saber light disappeared before it got close. How was that possible? He blocked the patriarch's attack. The surrounding people went crazy. They increasingly felt that the person in front of them was a quasi-emperor, because their patriarch was a quasi-emperor. Who are you? The void broke open, and a figure in a blue robe appeared in the sky. It was a middle-aged man. His face was fair and beardless, and he looked like a scholar. However, there was a trace of emperor's aura on his body. There was a blue, immortal chi seed between his brows. He was one of the 2 quasi-emperors of the Shuayan clan, Quasi-Emperor Tian Shui. He was cultivating in seclusion when he suddenly received a distress signal from the elders. He was shocked. Who dared to behave atrociously in their clan? After coming out, he saw that it was a young man. He was instantly furious and attacked with his saber. Originally, he thought that this attack would be able to injure and kill the enemy, but he didn't expect the other party to block it. This shocked him. The other party was a quasi-emperor. Could such a young quasi-emperor be from the depths of the deity ground? Therefore, his expression was extremely solemn. The deity ground was very vast and boundless. The Shuayan clan was one of the chosen immortal clans, but compared to those in the depths of the deity ground, they couldn't compare at all. Therefore, if it was really someone from the deity ground, then things would be troublesome. Chapter 56:21. Lin Xian looked at the other party and narrowed his eyes. Are you ready to come out? You should be the Shuayan clan's old ancestor, right? You won't be able to stop me. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. He used his Rinnegan to check the other party's aura. Although he was a quasi-emperor, he was only the 5-crown king, about the same as the Chaos quasi-emperor. He could definitely defeat such a person, so it was impossible for the other party to stop him. Hearing this, the Tianshui quasi-emperor's pupils constricted. What an arrogant kid. He frowned and said coldly, "What's going on?" The 8th elder, who was below, quickly reported the matter. Lin Xian said coldly, "Do you know why I attacked? It's not that I'm arrogant, but your Shuayan clan. You've gone too far. You went back on your word after agreeing to the conditions." "Nonsense, we didn't go back on our word. We were about to discuss it with you. You attacked first. You didn't take us seriously this time." The 8th elder shouted angrily. The others were also brimming with killing intent. Lin Xian sneered after hearing this. "Why are you still pretending to be innocent?" His Rinnegan bloomed with brilliance, displaying all the scenes he had seen before. The 8th elder and the others were shocked. "How is it possible? How could you know?" This was the content of their discussion. It was extremely confidential, and there were countless arrays outside the hall. How did the other party see it and recorded it? What kind of eyes are these? It's too terrifying. What else is there to say? Lin Xian snorted coldly. The Tianshui quasi-emperor's face became extremely ugly. These people are really useless. But if he just let the other party leave like this, where would the Shuayan clan's face be? So he said coldly, "Even so, you can't steal our immortal techniques." "Oh, I'll learn it. What do you want?" Lin Xian snorted coldly. This matter was not his fault. Thus, he did not back down. The Tianshui quasi-emperor said, I won't kill you. Stay in our Shuiyun clan for 300 years. After 300 years, I'll let you leave. You want to imprison me? Lin Xian smiled. Tianshui quasi-emperor was also furious. Brat, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you blocked one of my attacks. What kind of secret technique did you use just now? How long can your attacks last? I am a true quasi-emperor. My strength is not something an ant like you can imagine. He took a step forward, and his quasi-emperor aura burst forth. It released a piercingly cold radiance, and a terrifying aura swept across the four seas. Do you want to fight? As you wish. Lin Xian also walked out. A terrifying divine flame imprint also appeared between his eyebrows. Suddenly, he frowned and looked into the distance. What, kid, are you scared? Seeing that Lin Xian did not make a move, the 8 elders below sneered. Shui Yunra's complexion also became incomparably pale. To be honest, this whole thing started because of him, but he couldn't make the decision now. Now that the Grand Ancestor had come out, he had no right to speak. He could only sigh. Lin Gongzi, I have let you down. Lin Xian did not make a move, not because he was afraid, but because he felt the power of another quasi-emperor approaching quickly. And the aura of that person was from the Shuiyun tribe. Was the second quasi-emperor coming? His face was cold, and he held up the sky-devouring jar, ready to use his ultimate weapon at any time. 2 quasi-emperors were still a great challenge to him. Tianshui Grand Ancestor also felt it. The next moment, she exclaimed, Great True Water is back. What? Is it our True Water Grand Ancestor? The people of the Shuiyun tribe around also looked up to the sky and cheered. Great. Ha, kid, you are dead. Our True Water Grand Ancestor is even stronger. Let's see how you will die this time. It was easy for 2 quasi-emperors to kill each other. Lin Xian's eyes flickered, and his Rinnegan shone brightly. He looked for an opportunity to leave at any time. However, when he saw the figure coming, he was stunned and then smiled. Oh, is that so? He did not leave because he realized that the situation seemed to have changed. The void broke open, and a beautiful woman in aqua blue armor appeared. His face was pale, and he was injured. Some parts of his body were even black. He was injured and poisoned. When he flew into the sky, he swayed and swayed. In the end, he could not help but fall from the sky. What was going on with True Water? When Tianshui Grand Ancestor saw this, she hurriedly struck out a nomological law to catch him. You are injured, she exclaimed. The people of the Shuiyun tribe around also went crazy. Impossible? Their True Water Grand Ancestor, 6-Crown King, was very strong. How could he be injured? Who could injure their Grand Ancestor? They were all stunned. At this moment, no one cared about Lin Xian anymore. They all surrounded him. Grand Ancestor, are you okay? Grand Ancestor, don't scare me. Tianshui Grand Ancestor, save True Water Grand Ancestor. Go. Activate the Cloud Sea Array. Tianshui Grand Ancestor could not care less about Lin Xian. He took True Water Grand Ancestor and quickly flew into the depths of the clan. The surrounding elders also scattered in all directions. In the next moment, they struck out beams of terrifying light, and the Cloud Sea Array was activated. A sea of clouds appeared, and the 2 quasi-emperors entered. The power of the Sea of Clouds enveloped True Water Grand Ancestor. Don't worry, you will be fine when you return to the clan, Tianshui Grand Ancestor said in a deep voice. When the power he struck entered True Water Grand Ancestor's body, his body trembled, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. Damn it, what's going on? No effect? Open up the treasury and take out everything you have. As soon as the order was given, one after another, pills, herbs, and treasures were taken out. However, true water grand ancestor laughed bitterly. He was very weak. He said, "It's useless. Don't waste resources. I am poisoned." There was no cure for the poison of the Great Path. It could only be cured by the power of time. Perhaps, if I am cured, I will fall below the level of a quasi-emperor. True water grand ancestor was sad, and tears flowed from the corners of his eyes. He had lived for countless years to achieve his current cultivation, but he was injured. From now on, his cultivation could not improve any further. He might not even be able to maintain his cultivation as a quasi-emperor. The poison of the Great Path was terrifying. Do nothing? Impossible! Tianshui Grand Ancestor roared at the sky, as if he had gone mad. Who did this to you? How despicable! The surrounding members of the Water Clan also knelt on the ground, their eyes red from crying. Was there no hope for their Grand Ancestor? On the other side of the sky, Lin Xian stood there, frowning. The poison of the Great Path. He had heard that the Dragon Prince had been poisoned by the poison of the Great Path. He had almost died back then. Back then, the Thousand Dragon Court had used an extreme weapon to attack the spirit domain. They had used the divine tree of life to save the Dragon Prince. One could imagine how difficult it was to cure the poison of the Great Path even for an emperor clan. The current Shuiyun clan was terrifying, and they had 2 quasi-emperors. However, it was difficult to cure the poison of the Great Path. Chapter 56:22. No use. No use. Damn it. What should I do? Patriarch Heavenly Water was going crazy. The people from the other clans were also terrified. Could it be that one of their ancestors was going to fall? He was a boundary emperor. If he died, it would be more terrifying than the sky falling. Patriarch Heavenly Water opened his eyes and said weakly, "It was useless. If they wanted to cure the poison of the great Tao, they would have to enter the depths of the deity ground and obtain some treasures." Patriarch Heavenly Water sighed. Although he was a boundary emperor, they were from the chosen immortal clan. However, the area they were in now was not the core area. They did not dare to enter the core area. It was too scary. Who was the detestable one? Who was it that injured you? If they could find the enemy, they might be able to find the antidote. Patriarch Heavenly Water roared. He was most worried about the people in the core area of the deity ground. However, Patriarch Heavenly Water shook his head. It was the dragon race. The dragon race? He frowned. There was no dragon race in the chosen immortal clan. They came from the outside universe. Patriarch Heavenly Water was even more shocked. How could you injure a dragon race from the outside universe? Could it be the Great Emperor clan? That's right. They had extreme weapons. I was poisoned when I was escaping. Damn it. Was it the Emperor clan? Patriarch Heavenly Water gritted his teeth. He had no other choice. The Great Emperor clan was not in the deity ground, but in the outside universe. However, it was still a terrifying existence. They might not be afraid in terms of strength. However, they would be helpless if they had extreme weapons. Lin Xian was also stunned. The dragon race? Extreme weapons? You mean the Thousand Dragons Court? You know, Patriarch Heavenly Water was stunned. How did you know? Could it be that you are not from the deity ground? Are you from the outside universe as well? He was indeed suspicious because the emperors and elders of his clan were also at a loss. After all, the deity ground only descended once in countless years. They knew too little about the outside world. Only boundary emperors like them knew some information. The others did not know much. They only knew that the people from the outside universe were ants and trash. Apart from a few great emperor clans that they couldn't afford to offend, the others weren't enough. But now, the young man in front of them could easily say the name of the emperor race, shocking them. In other words, the other party came from a small universe. The others gasped. That was impossible. Didn't they say that the people from Little Cosmos were all trash? How could he be so powerful? That's right, he's still a young man. Has the small universe outside become so terrifying? Was this person the Emperor clan's emperor's son? In their opinion, only such a bloodline could be so heaven-defying. Lin Xian ignored him and walked forward, stopping in front of the two patriarchs. She asked in a low voice, "I'm asking you if it's the 10,000 Dragons Court." He frowned. That shouldn't be the case. The 10,000 Dragons Empire had already been destroyed by him. Back then, the strongest expert, Long Mu, had been killed by him. The remaining saint ancestors and saint kings had all perished as well. Only a few kings and saints remained. How could such a person rise up in such a short time? Even if the celestial ground descended and everyone broke through, everyone would be like dragons. It was impossible for them to injure a boundary emperor. So he was very confused. It seemed that there were other opportunities in the 10,000 Dragons Court. He had to figure it out. After all, both sides were enemies. Would the 10,000 Dragons Court attack the gods? What do you want to do? Patriarch Tianshui was also facing a great enemy. After all, this kid was very powerful. Get lost! He shouted angrily and struck out with his palm. However, Lin Xian blocked it. The demon god's palm blocked the other party's attack. Lin Xian's eyes shone with a terrifying light. He stared at Tianshui. Patriarch Tianshui said, "It should be the 10,000 Dragons Court." The leader was a woman who was very strong and had reached the Boundary Emperor realm. His entire body was sealed in ice by divine crystals, as if he had just woken up from a deep sleep. Beside him was a tall man who was also a Boundary Emperor. Other than that, the remaining people were weaker. There were 4 women in the lead. Lin Xian was even more confused. He originally thought that it was related to the Dragon Emperor, but now it seemed that he couldn't figure it out. Moreover, this woman had just woken up. Was she also an ancient living fossil? De Long said she might be the Dragon Queen. Dragon Queen? Lin Xian frowned. Could it be that the Dragon Emperor's wife was still alive? De Long sent a voice transmission. Legend had it that the Dragon Queen had not died but had been sealed by the Dragon Emperor. That was why she was still alive. It was very likely. Was it another person who had been sealed and had just woken up? Lin Xian frowned. What exactly was the Dragon Emperor planning? He had even sealed his wife and son. Could it be for the descent of the deity ground? His expression turned ugly. The Dragon Emperor's wife was extremely terrifying among the Boundary Emperors. She even knew many of the Dragon Emperor's secrets and could even use some of the Dragon Emperor's methods. He guessed that the tall man beside her should be the 7th Dragon General. After all, he was the only Dragon Race Boundary Emperor that he knew of. Then, would the remaining 6 Dragon Generals be summoned as well? Once they were summoned, the 10,000 Dragons Court would be too strong, and the Divine Union would be in danger. No, it seemed that the Divine Union lacked the power of a Boundary Emperor. Now, only Lin Xian had the power of a Boundary Emperor. The others did not have it yet. It was too dangerous. He had to find a few Boundary Emperors to form an alliance. In the next instant, he looked at the 2 quasi-emperor ancestors in front of him, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. "Damned brat, what are you smiling about? Are you mocking us?" Gloating. Tianshui was instantly enraged. He stood up with a murderous aura around him. Lin Xian said, "Do you want to live? I can save him." What? Tianshui was stunned when he heard this. Ancestor True Water also opened his eyes abruptly. A look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. When he took a closer look at this young man, he sighed. Even Boundary Emperors like them had no solution. Would this young man have a solution? This brat was spouting nonsense. "You are toying with me. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you?" Lin Xian shook his head. "I am serious. I really have a way to save him." Tian Shui frowned when he saw Lin Xian's serious expression. Are you sure? This brat in front of him was indeed very strange. Perhaps he had a solution. He said, What do you want? If you can save him, you can choose any immortal technique. I don't need any immortal technique. I just want to save him. I want the two of you. What? The two old ancestors were stunned. Lin Xian's eyes were filled with an aura of disdain. I want the two of you to respect me. You are courting death. The surrounding Shuiyun tribe members were completely enraged when they heard this. The old ancestor respected him? What a joke. Was he looking down on their Shuiyun tribe? Boundary Emperor Tian Shui's expression also darkened. He was furious and murderous. Chapter 56:23. Lin Xian was not angry at all when he saw how angry the people around him were. He smiled and said, I can understand. It's hard for a boundary emperor to lower his head to a divine ancestor. But what if I'm stronger than you? What did you say? You? Boundary Emperor Tian Shui was furious. Kid, you've gone too far. Lin Xian said, Come on, it seems like you want to fight. Let's fight. He won't die any time soon. I'll save him after I defeat you. I'll make both of you convinced. Lin Xian waved his hand and rose into the air, standing above the 9 heavens. Boundary Emperor Tian Shui also flew into the sky. He said, All right, let's see how you can be so arrogant. Below, the people of the Shuiyun clan roared, Kill him, Patriarch. Patriarch, he's too arrogant. Teach him a lesson. Roars of anger could be heard one after another. Shui Yunra's face was also pale. He was completely stunned. Lin Gongzi dared to challenge the patriarch. Was it really okay? He started to worry about Lin Xian's safety. Lin Xian waved his hand in the sky. The true water sword technique flew out and turned into 5 true water swords. It carried the power of using softness to overcome hardness, and instantly it moved forward like a chain to bind him. Damn it! Patriarch Tian Shui was furious. Let me show you what a true immortal technique is. He also used the true water sword technique. The two collided and shattered Lin Xian's true water sword technique. Great, Patriarch is mighty. Haha, I told you, he's no match for Patriarch. In an instant, Patriarch Tian Shui gained the upper hand. The people of the Shuiyun clan were extremely happy. In their opinion, Lin Xian was dead meat. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and nodded slightly. Just as I thought. The reason why he used the true water sword technique was to test the difference between the divine fire seed and the immortal qi seed. It seemed that the immortal qi seed cultivated all its power. However, he did not only know immortal techniques, but also divine powers. With the help of the divine fire seed, he was able to unleash the full power of his abhijna. Therefore, Lin Xian smiled and said, Immortal techniques? Very good. I'll have a good taste of the true immortal techniques. As soon as he finished speaking, countless bolts of lightning appeared beneath his feet. Shadowless heaven's net. His speed was extremely fast as he charged forward. He punched out, and the golden sun shone brilliantly, rolling between heaven and earth. Countless amounts of water evaporated. What a terrifying flame power! Patriarch True Water was shocked when he sensed this power. Although he was injured and poisoned, he could still feel it. The young man in front of him was absolutely terrifying. He even started to worry for the heavenly water patriarch. Ancestor Tian Shui roared furiously. Heavenly water art. He quickly attacked, and his long saber fell like the Milky Way. It wanted to split Lin Xian in half. However, Lin Xian's speed was really too fast. For a moment, all he slashed were illusions. Lin Xian said, You should experience a true peerless theurgy. He struck out with his palm, drawing a large black seal. Demonic god seal. It covered the sky and covered the earth. Everywhere it passed, the light of heavenly water was shattered. The two collided, and the saber light in the sky disappeared. Lin Xian was like a demonic god, stepping in all directions. He said, "Your strength is only so." Heavenly Water was stunned. He realized that this young man's aura had changed, becoming extremely mysterious. His aura was even somewhat similar to his. It was just similar, but not the same. Especially when he heard the words peerless theurgy, his pupils shrank. Could it be that you're cultivating the divine fire seed? That was impossible. Firstly, the divine fire seed was very rare. More importantly, even if one had the divine fire seed, one would be a boundary emperor. The other party was only a divine ancestor. How could he have such power? He was really crazy. Lin Xian said, "There are many things you don't know." He continued to attack, opening and closing. He used all the demonic emperor's peerless theurgy. Damn it. So what if it's a peerless theurgy? My immortal techniques are definitely not weaker than yours. The two fought again, and in the blink of an eye, they had exchanged 50 moves. At this moment, the demonic chi on Lin Xian's body condensed. In front of him, it formed a black guqin. Demonic song, demonic overture. With a clang, the guqin exploded, and the overture began. Demonic music surrounded them, as if a true demon was attacking. It roared in the ancient past. Everyone felt their souls tremble, and they all knelt on the ground. This young man was really too powerful. The Heavenly Water Patriarch's expression also changed. The Heavenly Water law on his body was constantly shattering. This power could threaten him. Damn it. The Heavenly Water battle armor's law condensed, forming a battle armor that surrounded him. At the same time, the long saber in his hand merged. Heavenly Water Saber. This saber was extremely terrifying. Lin Xian, on the other hand, laughed out loud. The demonic song moved the universe. The sound of the guqin changed again, bringing with it a terrifying killer aura that shattered the 9 heavens. The entire Heavenly Water tribe shook violently, and endless cracks spread in all directions. The Heavenly Water Patriarch's expression finally changed. Not good. She wanted to retreat, but it was too late. She was sent flying by this power. The battle armor on her body shattered, and her body was also torn apart. She fell from the sky while vomiting blood. Patriarch. The people who were watching from below went crazy. Their patriarch was actually injured, defeated by a young man. Impossible. These people were dumbfounded. When the Heavenly Water Patriarch saw this, he sighed. It was just as he had guessed. Heavenly Water Patriarch was defeated, but he also had hope, because the stronger this young man was, the truer his words were. Perhaps he could really save her. "You have lost. Are you convinced?" Lin Xian looked ahead and said in a low voice. The Heavenly Water Patriarch's mind was in a daze. She had never thought that she would lose to a young man, and it was such a thorough defeat. She gritted her teeth, unwilling to admit defeat. But at this moment, a vortex suddenly appeared on Lin Xian's body. Within the vortex, an extremely terrifying aura exploded. Sensing this aura, the Heavenly Water Patriarch's expression changed. Extreme aura. Although their family did not have any extreme weapons, they were the most sensitive to extreme aura. This was an aura comparable to that of an emperor. It could instantly suppress them. It made them feel as if they were facing a great enemy. This young man had an extreme weapon in his hand. This meant that it was not impossible for him to kill her. At the thought of this, she begged for mercy. "Young master, I admit defeat." The crowd was in an uproar. They had not expected their patriarch to yield. This was like a dream to them. Shui Yunru was also stunned. The young man who had saved her was actually more powerful than their patriarch. This was really unbelievable. Lu Qianzhong was so frightened that he knelt on the ground. Lin Xian said, "Then, do you respect me?" The Heavenly Water Patriarch became extremely respectful. He bowed deeply. From now on, he would respect young master. Young master, please save my senior sister. All right. Lin Xian laughed heartily. After subduing 2 boundary emperors, the divine union would become stronger. At that time, so what if the Dragon Queen was revived? Lin Xian's eyes emitted a terrifying radiance as he looked at the heavenly water patriarch. Chapter 56:24. True Water Ancestor said weakly, "As long as young master can heal my injuries, I am willing to respect young master." Lin Xian nodded. He said, "Wait a moment, I'll recover and treat you tomorrow." Lin Xian was respectfully invited by the ancestor into a large hall. Countless treasures were presented. He also warned that no one was to disturb him. After Lin Xian entered, he sat down cross-legged and set up an array. He prepared to enter the sword world. He had no way to treat the poison of the great Tao, but there was an antidote in the sword world. De Long had already told him that a few fruits could cure the injuries of the great Tao. So Lin Xian only needed to find them for the other party to consume. Entering the sword world again, it became even more mysterious than before. Lin Xian also felt a huge pressure when he entered. He was surprised and continued to walk inside. Lin Xian even swallowed 2 fruits on the way, causing the power of his divine fire to become even more terrifying. Lin Xian felt that he was an extremely terrifying existence among the 4 champions. He was not far from breaking through to become a quasi-emperor. However, before that, Lin Xian did not plan to completely break through and become a quasi-emperor. He wanted to condense the immortal qi seed first and then break through to become even stronger. Although the sword world had become mysterious, there were not many fruits. Lin Xian picked another one and gave it to Little White. Basically, he could not find it even if he looked into the distance. Fortunately, he found a pitch-black leaf in the end. This leaf was as big as a millstone. After Lin Xian picked it, the corner of his mouth raised into a smile. This could cure the other party's poison of the great Tao. After cultivating in the sword world for another half a day, Lin Xian came out. The next day, the heavenly water ancestor arrived early and waited outside the hall. He was nervous and perturbed, but he did not dare to disturb Lin Xian, so he could only be extremely anxious. At this time, the door to the hall opened. The heavenly water ancestor suddenly raised his head. When he saw Xian Shao, he said, "Young master, is that enough?" Lin Xian was shocked. "You're up really early." However, he also knew that the safety of a quasi-emperor was extremely important to a family. He nodded and said, "It's about time. Lead the way." Soon, they arrived at the Sea of Clouds again. At this moment, all the elders were waiting there. When they saw Lin Xian, their bodies trembled, especially 8th elder. He walked over and knelt down. "Young master, please spare my life. I offended young master before. Please punish me." Lin Xian waved his hand and said, "Forget it. You may leave." He was now an ancestor, so he didn't care about other people. "Thank you, young master. In the future, I will definitely go through water and tread on fire for young master." The 8th elder was extremely grateful. Originally, he thought that he was going to die. Who would have thought that the young master would be so magnanimous? The young master had arrived. Within the Sea of Clouds, Patriarch True Water opened his eyes. Her beautiful face was pale and bloodless. She was probably extremely weak and did not have much strength left. Lin Xian waved his hand and took out the black leaf. He said, "Eat it." When he saw the black leaf, Patriarch True Water was stunned. He examined it carefully, and then his expression was extremely strange. Why did it feel like the leaf was filled with poison? Lin Xian said, "Why? Don't you believe me?" Patriarch True Water said, "I'm already so injured. Can it get worse?" I believe, young master. She took the black leaf and swallowed it bit by bit. In the next moment, her body shook and her entire body turned black. She kept spitting out black blood. Everyone was on guard. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was calm and at ease. Her condition would improve in 3 days. Everyone waited patiently for 3 days. They realized that Patriarch True Water's face was no longer pale, and she could even stand up. She's really fine. Thank you, young master. Patriarch True Water came to Lin Xian and bowed deeply. From now on, young master would be the leader. There was no choice. Lin Xian's methods were too mysterious, and he was extremely strong. Following such a person, they might have a chance to soar into the sky. Don't worry. When I need you guys, Lin Xian nodded. Then he said, yes. You don't want revenge? Tell me in detail about the 10,000 Dragon Court. Young master, this way please. The 2 boundary emperors invited Lin Xian in, and then they discussed in the main hall. It turned out that True Water had gone out to look for opportunities. He also knew that the deity ground had descended. Not only could people from the outside enter, but some places in the deity ground would be opened as well. Indeed, some places that were originally sealed were opened. There was a place that was very mysterious. Legend had it that when the moon was full, the moon palace would appear in the sky. Hence, Patriarch True Water waited there. He did not expect to meet people from the 10,000 Dragon Court. Both sides had a conflict, and in the end, he was injured and fled. Moon Palace? Lin Xian squinted his eyes. Patriarch True Water said, that was a very mysterious place in the deity ground. Legend had it that it was related to the moon immortal. Of course, there was an even older legend related to the moon immortal. But no matter what, it was an extremely mysterious place. Lin Xian squinted his eyes. Gods and immortals were related? Interesting. Such a place was filled with great opportunities. He would not miss it. She asked about the Moon Palace and prepared to head there. Young master, the Moon Palace opens on the night of the full moon. There is still some time. I heard that young master was looking for an immortal technique. We are willing to give young master another one. Patriarch True Water brought Lin Xian to the Xiantian stone tablet to look at the heavenly water art. Lin Xian memorized it and nodded. Thank you. You guys can recover here first. When it is time for revenge, I will look for you. Thank you, young master. The 2 boundary emperors respectfully sent Lin Xian away. Lin Xian got the immortal technique just in case. Morong Qingcheng, Yan Ruyu, and Xueqi would definitely become boundary emperors in the future. However, he did not know whether he would walk the divine path or the immortal path. Hence, he prepared some immortal techniques. There was no harm in it. Moreover, he could cultivate on his own. After leaving the Shuiyun clan, Lin Xian headed to the Moon Palace. Along the way, he walked and comprehended, feeling the mysterious power of the deity ground. Just like that, Lin Xian started on the path of cultivation. However, a few days later, Lin Xian stopped. He heard the sound of battle ahead. There were people, and he saw the illusion of an immortal king. It was the Yi clan. With a sway of his body, Lin Xian charged forward. Yi Ying's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with anger. Damn it, they were attacked. The Yi clan chose a direction, and there were no other great emperor clans on the way. The Yi clan was divided into many teams, and Yi Ying was one of them. They were scouting nearby. However, a day ago, they met an enemy, a terrifying enemy. The other party was a boundary emperor. They could not resist such a person at all, so they were prepared to retreat. However, they did not expect that the other party would not let them go. Damn it, the Yi clan is a great emperor clan. Do you really want to be enemies with us? He took a step forward. and the flames on his body instantly turned into a sword chi that slashed forward. With a clang, the ghost claw was split into two halves. Damn it, he was actually able to block it. Kaiser Blood's expression changed. Was this young man a boundary emperor? He checked carefully, but he realized that he was not. Just as he was puzzled, Lin Xian had already rushed to the sky and arrived in front of him. A golden fist punched out. A thunderous sound rang out, hitting Kaiser Blood's body. Kaiser Blood's blood was boiling. He looked up to the sky and roared, "You're courting death." His sharp claws continued to attack Lin Xian in close combat. When the two collided, Lin Xian frowned slightly. Kaiser Blood's body was shriveled, but his physique was extremely strong. Moreover, his body was extremely cold, as if he was a dead man. He was indeed strange. "Brat, you're really courting death to compete with me in terms of physique." Kaiser Blood sneered and attacked again. He was very confident in his physique. This was because he had once absorbed the bloodlines of countless powerhouses and then condensed this body. It was definitely incomparably powerful. The brat in front of him would not be able to defeat his physique at all. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Lin Xian raise his hand. An array of sword chi gathered. It was useless. Kaiser Blood snorted and punched out again. However, this time he screamed in pain. He retreated. His arm was split open. This sword had broken through his defense. How was this possible? Kaiser Blood was going crazy. Lin Xian sneered. Azura sword technique. He stabbed out 5 times in a row, piercing through Kaiser Blood's body. Kaiser Blood was injured. His blood dyed the sky red. At the same time, he was even more shocked. This brat in front of him was so strange. He escaped. He did not continue fighting. He turned and ran. He turned into ghost fog and floated in all directions. Lin Xian snorted and did not chase him. He still had to rush to the Moon Palace. The Yi family members were shocked. Was he defeated? That was a boundary emperor. Just like that, Lin Xian was easily defeated. They knew that Lin Xian was powerful and wanted to use Lin Xian's heaven-devouring jar to defeat a boundary emperor. However, Lin Xian did not use any supreme Dao weapon at all. He had defeated a quasi-emperor with his own strength. Oh heavens! Has Lin Wudi's strength reached such a terrifying level? They were shocked. Yi Ying and the others bowed to Lin Gongzi, thanking him for saving their lives. Lin Xian nodded. That guy would not dare to come back. Be careful from now on. With that, he rose into the air and flew into the distance. Yi Ying and the others looked up enviously. When would they be as strong as Lin Gongzi? Don't think about it. I think he's already a boundary emperor. Even our saint, Yi Wudao, is no match for him. These people sighed and then left. The mountain range where the Moon Palace was located was called Moon Mountain. However, as the celestial land descended into the small world, the ceiling formation was also activated. Many people were already flashing around. However, the night of the full moon had not arrived yet, so they could not enter the Moon Palace. At this moment, some people stopped nearby. Lin Xian also came to Moon Mountain. He looked around, his eyes flashing. He opened his Rinnegan. He could feel the extraordinariness of this mountain range. He could even sense an even more mysterious aura above the 9 heavens. However, it was too ethereal. Even with his current Rinnegan, he could not completely lock onto it. It was indeed terrifying. It should be the aura of the Moon Palace. Lin Xian was overjoyed. Perhaps he could obtain a great fortune in the Moon Palace. It would be best if he could condense an immortal chi seed. This way, his strength would increase. At that time, it would not be a problem for him to challenge the 6 Dan King. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian walked to the left. There seemed to be the essence of the moon in Moon Mountain. The plants, stones, and some monsters that grew here all had the information of the moon. It belonged to the yin of yin and yang. after Lin Xian walked over, a yin-yang image appeared under his feet. It seemed to have merged with the great path. This place was indeed extraordinary. Lin Xian sighed. At this moment, a cry of surprise came from ahead. "It's you, kid." Chapter 56, 26. Hearing this voice, Lin Xian also turned his head. When he saw the other party, he smiled. "So it's you guys. Why are you here to pay respects to your ancestors again? Damn kid, you're courting death." These people were none other than Bloodsword and the rest. When they saw Lin Xian, they immediately gritted their teeth, because last time they all knelt down to Lin Xian. This was unacceptable to them. They swore that they would kill him when they saw him. They didn't expect this kid to come to Moon Mountain. This was a good opportunity. Sixth uncle, it's him. It's this kid. We must capture him. The people of the Blazing Fire tribe were also roaring crazily. Their eyes were red. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked out. He squinted his eyes and said, "Last time, it was him who made you guys kneel? That's right, sixth uncle. This kid has a ring in his hand. It's the Blazing Sun Ring that was lost for more than 10,000 years. I don't know where he picked it up from. We must get it back. This is something that belongs to us. We can't let this despicable person be so arrogant." Voices came one after another. That middle-aged man had a square face. His eyes were like copper bells, filled with flames. His hair was like a fire python that kept dancing. It even coiled around his body. It was extremely terrifying. This Moon Mountain didn't only have the Blazing Fire tribe. There were other figures. They were also here to investigate the Moon Palace. At this moment, when these people saw from afar, they were all shocked. Heavens, that's the Blazing Fire tribe, right? Is someone courting death and challenging the Blazing Fire tribe? It's just a young man. Who is this person? Which family is he from? The surrounding people were discussing, but they realized that they didn't know him at all. But when the middle-aged man walked out, they all exclaimed, "Blazing Demon! It's actually him!" An old man exclaimed. After hearing this, the others sucked in a breath of cold air. "What? The Blazing Fire tribe's demon hunter? I heard that he's extremely terrifying. Is he back?" This demon hunter was extremely terrifying. It was said that in order to break through, he attacked crazily and challenged the 10 great families alone. He killed many experts of the 10 great families. In the end, the 10 great families were enraged and sent countless experts to kill him. There were hundreds of experts there, but they were all killed by the demon hunter. Their blood was red. The 9 heavens turned into Azura Hell. Ever since that battle, the major clans were completely terrified and didn't dare to make a move again. However, this was already something that happened more than 1,000 years ago. In the past 1,000 years, the other party had been cultivating in seclusion. His strength was terrifying to the extreme. Right now, the other party was only one step away from Quasi-Emperor. More importantly, this person was very young, less than 3,000 years old. Becoming a quasi-emperor at this age meant that his future was limitless. It could be said that they were extremely terrifying existences in the Mesozoic era. Now that he wanted to make a move, how could this young man in front of him possibly withstand it? The people of the Raging Fire tribe also laughed loudly. With their 6th uncle making a move, the other party would definitely die. A figure appeared on a nearby mountain peak. It was a woman with a pair of pure white wings on her back. They fluttered gently, making her look like an angel. He squinted his eyes and said, "Young man, run quickly. You are no match for him." Lin Xian raised his head and glanced at the man. Was he that powerful? Since he was not even a quasi-emperor, he should be trash. Hearing this, the woman with white wings was also stunned. As for the people of the Raging Fire tribe, they were even more stunned. Quasi-emperor? Do you think quasi-emperors are cabbages in the celestial land? They were also extremely terrifying existences. Their sixth uncle was not even 3,000 years old. He could be said to be very young. Moreover, he was very close to becoming a quasi-emperor. He could definitely become one at the age of 3,000. This was an extremely young quasi-emperor. His future was limitless. How dare this kid look down on him? Stupid thing, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have the blazing sun ring. This time, we will not hesitate to make a move. Blood sword. And the others also roared crazily. You people, are you not going to follow the rules of your ancestors? In that case, I won't be polite. Lin Xian walked out and said, You are called sixth uncle, right? If you obediently kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake, I will spare you. Otherwise, I will let you know the taste of despair. The demon hunter in front was also angry. He snorted coldly. Kid, no one dares to challenge me. Even a quasi-emperor would place great importance on me. Just you alone? I will give you a chance. Attack me with all your strength. Otherwise, you are dead. However, Lin Xian shook his head. To deal with you, I don't need to attack. One look is enough to kill you. Arrogant. He is really too arrogant. The spectators all shook their heads and sighed. This brat was too reckless. Does he really not know who a demon hunter is? Fiery Demon's face also darkened. Good kid, since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Demon Fire Palm. His palm stretched out with black flames. It was like the flames of the demon world. He slapped forward. This aura was really terrifying. It was very close to that of a quasi-emperor. The spectators felt their scalps go numb. Being targeted by such a person, the outcome would be very tragic. However, Lin Xian stood there and did not move at all. This kid was scared silly. Of course, how could he be a match for his sixth uncle? The fiery demon race sneered. In the sky, the lady from the flying feather race shook her head and sighed. What a pity. You are quite handsome. I wanted to save you, but you are brainless. Demon Hunter sneered. Looks like his clansmen were frightened by blazing suns ring the last time. This time, he would attack without hesitation. He would kill his opponent and take back the blazing sun ring. At the thought of this, the demon fire on his palm became even more terrifying. However, at this moment, Lin Xian moved. He did not make any extra movements. He just glanced forward. Reincarnation, soul snatching. Buzz. Demon Hunter's palm stopped in midair. Everyone was stunned. What's going on? Why isn't sixth uncle attacking? Does he not want to attack? Is he softening his heart? Impossible. Sixth uncle must be playing a game of cat and mouse. He wants to play me to death. Voices rang out one after another. At this moment, sixth uncle's face became incomparably ugly. What's going on? What kind of eye is that? At this moment, the scenery around him disappeared and was replaced by an eye. An eye that was filled with the power of reincarnation was looking down at him like a god. He felt that he could not move at all. It was not that he did not want to attack, but that he could not. He felt that his soul was being mercilessly crushed by a hand. In the end, he screamed as his soul was torn apart, and he was sent flying. Boom! A violent explosion rang out as the void shattered. The surrounding people were stunned when they saw this scene. Sixth uncle was sent flying. He was injured. Damn it! What did that kid do? Why didn't they see anything? Chapter 56:27. The spectators were all stunned, their eyes and mouths agape. The world was silent except for sixth uncle's screams. The female from the Flying Feather clan narrowed her eyes. That was impossible. She thought that Lin Xian was dead for sure, and sighed. It was a pity that such a handsome person died. But who would have thought that Lin Xian was unharmed, and the one who was injured was Demon Hunter? What just happened? Did you see that? I don't know. It seemed that this kid was really injured after looking at the other party. What was that? Super eye technique? These people were crazy. Sixth uncle was even more shocked. His face was pale as he gritted his teeth. Who are you? He had dominated the world for more than 2,000 years. 1,000 years ago, he challenged hundreds of experts from the 10 great clans. But he still won. From then on, his reputation was unmatched. He was called the strongest person below the Boundary Emperor. He was the most promising person to become a Boundary Emperor before the age of 3,000. He was so terrifying. But now, he was defeated. He was defeated by an extremely young person in one move. He couldn't accept it. He had to know who the other party was. He guessed that it wasn't a young person. It was an old monster, a Boundary Emperor. But Lin Xian said, "You're too weak. Ants don't have the right to know who I am." Liamo spat out a mouthful of blood. He was about to go crazy. The people from the Blazing Fire tribe felt their scalps go numb. They kept retreating. "You want to leave? Kneel down." Lin Xian took out the blazing sun ring and put it on his finger. The people around were so angry that they vomited blood. They felt their bloodline being suppressed. Plop, plop. The people from the Blazing Fire tribe were all forced to kneel on the ground, their bodies trembling. When the others saw this, they all sucked in a cold breath. The Blazing Fire tribe was kneeling. Heavens don't hit people in the face. Was he going to become the enemy of the Blazing Fire tribe? Shuijian was also trembling. His mother was from the Scorching Fire clan, and his father was from the Kaiser Blood clan. Therefore, she could be considered half a member of the Blazing Fire race. At this moment, he also gritted his teeth when he saw this scene. "Brat, don't be arrogant. The Blazing Fire tribe has 3 quasi-emperors. This is not something you can imagine. You'd better let us go." "Oh, really? So what if there were 3 quasi-emperors? Are you a quasi-emperor? If not, get down on your knees." With a furious roar, the blazing sun ring blossomed with radiance. Bloodsword was forced to kneel on the ground. He gritted his teeth, his face contorted. Damn it! Kneeling again. He was actually kneeling in front of the other party again. How could someone as prideful as him tolerate this? He roared madly as the law of strength erupted from his body. Damn it, my grandfather, the Blood Lord, is nearby. If he sees you treating me like this, he'll make you wish you were dead. Frenzied roars spread in all directions. When the surrounding people heard this, they all cried out in surprise. This was a blood sword, right? That's right, he was very strong, and his grandfather, Kaiser Blood, was also a quasi-emperor. His methods were cruel. No one who had offended them had ever been able to leave alive. They all lived a life worse than death. How dare this young man offend Kaiser Blood's grandson? Countless voices of discussion could be heard. At this moment, a roar came from afar. Who dares to hurt my grandson? The voice was filled with endless killing intent, causing the void to crack. The others gasped. Kaiser Blood was here. The people of the Raging Fire tribe also looked up at the sky. They saw hope. Blood Sword even laughed. "Ha ha, kid, you're dead. My grandfather is here. My grandfather is a true quasi-emperor. I'll see how you die this time." He decided to take revenge and let his grandfather cripple this kid. Then he would torture him for 1,000 years. He would make him wish he was dead. "Kid, why aren't you running?" The woman from the Flying Feather Race sighed. She felt that Lin Xian was really too arrogant. He didn't even run when a quasi-emperor came. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Kaiser Blood? He was just a defeated opponent. It wasn't like he hadn't fought him before. Why would he run? Lin Xian stood there with his hands behind his back and a cold smile on his face, causing everyone to be stunned. Could it be that this kid still had some trump card? Impossible. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't beat a quasi-emperor. That's right. Who does he think he is? "Grandfather, I'm here. Kill this kid. He dares to bully me. I'll make him wish he was dead." Blood Sword quickly shouted. Dark clouds covered the sky, causing the entire sky to darken. The moon mountain was projected by the huge clouds. In the mountain range, many people trembled. A quasi-emperor had come. Heavens, it's Kaiser Blood? Who is it? Offend him? I can feel his shocking killing intent. Grandson, don't be afraid. I'll capture him now. I'll cripple him. I'll let you torture him. For thousands of years, an old man appeared in the sky. He looked like a zombie and stretched out a ghost claw. He grabbed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't attack at all. Instead, he turned his head and said, "You dare to attack me? Do you want to die?" Hearing this, everyone was stunned. A young man dared to scold a quasi-emperor. He really didn't want to live. Kaiser Blood was also angry. Where did this ant come from? Did he want to die? But when he saw Lin Xian, his pupils constricted. His ghost claw stopped in the sky. The next moment, he widened his eyes with all his might, and his body began to tremble. Damn it, it's him. He realized that it wasn't anyone else. It was the young man he met when he attacked the Yi family. He had fought with Lin Xian before. In the end, he was beaten up by Lin Xian and was injured. He had just recovered from his injuries when he rushed over. He didn't expect to meet Lin Xian again. That damn grandson. Isn't this a trap? Grandfather, why aren't you attacking? Hurry up and attack. Grandpa, are you thinking of using some kind of method to torture him? I've already thought of it for you. First, use the blood spirit song to torture his soul. Then, use the blood sword to penetrate his organs. Finally, use the water of the blood god to break all his bones and make them rot. Kaiser Blood didn't attack when he heard that. Instead, he stopped. He landed and looked at Lin Xian with a strange expression on his face. Lin Xian smiled. Good. Old man, did you hear what your grandson said? You know what to do. Everyone was stunned. Was this guy asking for death? Kaiser Blood took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Lin Xian. He cupped his fists and bowed deeply to Lin Xian. Greetings, young master. The people around them went crazy. Many of them knelt on the ground. The weapons in their hands fell to the ground. Oh my heavens! What was going on? The great Kaiser Blood was greeting a young man. Did this young man have a powerful background? Who exactly was he? Countless exclamations and discussions rang out, and the people of the Raging Flame tribe were even more confused. They felt as if they had fallen into an abyss. Blood Sword was even more confused. Grandfather, what are you doing? He's just a useless ant. Hurry up and kill him. Kaiser Blood frowned even more. His grandson didn't know what was good for him. He didn't dare to resist. He could only say, "My grandson doesn't know his place and has offended young master. Please punish him." Chapter 56:28. The people around him went crazy. A member of the blood race was being so humble. Lin Xian said, "How should I punish him? Your grandson has already said so. Do as he says." No. Hearing this, Blood Sword screamed crazily. That was a method that made one wish they were dead. He did not want to take it. "Grandpa, you can't do this. I'm your favorite grandson." However, the blood race's face was cold. He bowed to thank young master for not killing him. Then he turned around and attacked Blood Sword. His hand turned into a sharp sword and pierced through Blood Sword's organs. Then he broke all the bones in his body. Blood Sword fainted like a dead dog. The surrounding members of the Raging Flame tribe also sucked in a cold breath. Blood Sword was tortured to such a state. They were kowtowing nonstop. "Young master, please spare us. We were wrong. We won't dare to do it again." "Get lost." Kaiser Blood waved his sleeve and sent the people of the blazing fire race flying. They were like kites with broken strings. They spat out blood and flew into the distance. "Young master, please don't be angry." Kaiser Blood smiled at the side. Lin Xian said, "Tell me, how much do you know about the Moon Palace?" Right now, Lin Xian truly did not care about those ants. Kaiser Blood told him everything he knew about the Moon Palace. Lin Xian frowned slightly when he heard that. He was not very satisfied. Kaiser Blood's face changed. "Young master, I didn't lie to you. The Moon Palace was too mysterious. This area was sealed. No one could enter. It's not easy to know this. All right, looks like I have to search for myself." Lin Xian found a place to sit down and waited for the full moon. The people in the surrounding area left. Lin Xian was too shocking. Even a boundary emperor did not dare to offend him. They did not dare to offend such a young man. Kaiser Blood found a place far away from Lin Xian and sat down cross-legged. Everyone was waiting. Soon, the full moon was coming. Everyone became excited. At this moment, the entire Moon Mountain was filled with experts. Boundary emperors could be seen everywhere. Other than that, there were also quadruple crown kings and triple crown kings. Lin Xian sighed in amazement. As expected of the celestial land, in the outside world, the triple crown champion was a top existence. Quasi-emperors were even more supreme overlords. But in this place, it seemed to be very ordinary. But he also knew that the celestial land was extremely mysterious. Its power and immortal chi far surpassed that of the outside universe. Therefore, it was understandable that there were many experts here. In addition to these chosen immortal race, Lin Xian also detected some familiar auras. Very clearly, the people from the Emperor clan also came. Night gradually fell. A full moon rose into the sky, illuminating the 9 heavens. Everyone became excited. In the moonlight, a phantom appeared. Illusory images of palaces appeared, shocking everyone. They all sucked in a breath of cold air. It really was the Moon Palace. Lin Xian also looked up at the sky. His Rinnegan was shining brightly. It was so mysterious, as if it had descended from another world. Its spatial techniques were so terrifying. Lin Xian guessed that the origin of the Moon Palace was definitely extraordinary. It was very likely to be related to a certain emperor. Perhaps there was the power he needed inside. The other quasi-emperors also stood up, one after another. Although the celestial land was mysterious and powerful and had many quasi-emperors, there were still very few emperors. The goal of these quasi-emperors was to become emperors, so they would not miss the Moon Palace. Buzz, an illusory image danced in the air, directly charging towards the 9 heavens. It was a black shadow, a bat that had reached the cultivation of the quadruple crown champion. The old man sneered. "Everyone, I'll go first." The shadow bat was very fast. The others were angry. "How dare you? You're courting death." They roared one after another. However, at this moment, a scream came from the sky. When the shadow bat approached the Moon Palace, its body actually turned into nothingness. No, it turned around and wanted to escape, but it was useless. In an instant, it turned transparent and disappeared. What's going on? Is it dead? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This Moon Palace was too terrifying. Some quasi-emperors sneered. Foolish. The Moon Palace was still an illusion and had not truly descended. The spatial energy above was extremely terrifying. If they went in now, they would be courting death. The one who said this was the Gu clan's quasi-emperor, Elder Gu Shao. They were the clearest about spatial energy. Hence, they did not act rashly. When the others heard this, they also sucked in a breath of cold air. It was impossible to snatch the initiative. They could only wait patiently. Everyone started to wait. Not long after, a rumbling sound came from the sky. The ground trembled, and the void shook as if it was about to split open. Everyone's hearts sank. Even the quasi-emperors were on guard, as if they were facing a great enemy. Their bloodlines froze. Lin Xian also stood up and looked into the distance. An expert was coming. Furthermore, it was an extremely terrifying quasi-emperor. Everyone saw an illusory image appear in the sky. This figure was extremely terrifying. Furthermore, he was jumping over. With every step he took, the entire space shook as if it was about to shatter. What was that? Looking at the mountain-like figure, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Xian used the samsara eye to take a look and was also stunned. He realized that it was a rabbit. It was very huge. Rumor had it that some time ago the sun turned into the golden crow ancestor, and the moon turned into a jade rabbit that jumped away. Lin Xian had already fought the golden crow ancestor and defeated him. Could that jade rabbit be the one in front of them? This was a moon. It was probably at the level of the golden crow ancestor. The others also exclaimed. It was a quasi-emperor, and an extremely terrifying one at that. Could this rabbit be related to the legendary jade rabbit of the Moon Palace? Countless voices of discussion and exclamations sounded. The jade rabbit came nearby. Its tall body seemed to be even larger than the Moon Mountain. It stood between heaven and earth, looking up at the Moon Palace. It seemed to be crying. It was crying. Her tears rolled down, like the Milky Way piercing through the 9 heavens. Everyone's scalps went numb. It was too terrifying. A single tear of a quasi-emperor could crush a saint. After the jade rabbit came, it did not take action. Instead, it waited. In the latter half of the night, the Moon Palace was very solid. It was as if it had really descended into the sky. Buzz. The jade rabbit's body swayed, and its huge body directly jumped forward. The void beneath its feet shattered, and a large crack spread. Everyone retreated. However, their eyes were wide open. The jade rabbit took the lead. Was there any danger this time? They watched as the jade rabbit jumped directly into the Moon Palace and disappeared. It went in. Nothing happened. That's enough. Hurry up and charge. The surrounding people rushed over crazily. Buzz. After the jade rabbit, the door of the Moon Palace completely opened. Bright moonlight shone down from inside. The moonlight rotated rapidly, forming one great Tao after another. In the end, they turned into moon beasts. They rushed over in an overwhelming manner. Chapter 56:29. These were the souls of demonic beasts that had fused with the power of the moon. Many of the people who had rushed to the front were caught off guard and were instantly sent flying. Some of the Triple Crown champions were torn into pieces. Even the Boundary Emperor's faces turned cold. Damn it, this Moon Palace is indeed mysterious. A Boundary Emperor from the flying fish race roared. Its wings turned into a heavenly blade and slashed forward, splitting all the moon beasts apart. There was another old man. He sat cross-legged on a giant python and formed a seal with his palms. Open! A low roar sounded like the roar of a god. The moon beasts in the surrounding void were instantly shattered. The other Boundary Emperors also used their own methods to kill their way in. Those who were not Boundary Emperors did not have it so easy. These moon beasts were very powerful, and there were many of them. Everyone engaged in an intense battle. Lin Xian also made his move. He said coldly, "Kaiser Blood, come over and open a path for me." Kaiser Blood was originally very far away and wanted to act alone. But when he heard Lin Xian's words, he almost cried. He did not dare to run away. He obediently came in front of Lin Xian and opened a path for Lin Xian. Kaiser Blood's cultivation technique was very terrifying. Even though he had lost to Lin Xian, he was still a quasi-emperor. Hence, he had no scruples along the way. Finally, he came to the front of the Moon Palace and walked in. Lin Xian, who was behind him, had his hands behind his back and strolled leisurely. He entered the Moon Palace under the envious gazes of countless people. Behind them, others came one after another. Among them, there were 2 figures with pale faces. They had also arrived near the Moon Mountain. When the surrounding people saw this, they sneered. One was a double crown champion, and the other was a single crown champion. The people behind them sneered. Little fairy, don't run. You can't run away. Come back with me obediently and become my servant. I will make your strength increase by leaps and bounds. There were some pine trees behind them. Some of them were in human form, while others were uprooted from the ground. It was very terrifying. These people were very strong, far stronger than the two in front of them. The person in front gritted his teeth. Damn it, this celestial ground is so powerful. Be careful. It looks like you're in danger. I'll protect you. You better leave quickly. Shengguan Shaoxian shook her head. No, senior brother, let's go together. I'm really touched, but neither of you can leave. A pine tree in front of him walked over. Its branches swayed, and those pine needles were drawn into peerless sharp weapons, piercing through everything. Fu Hongya unleashed a sky full of red leaves to fight back, but she was still injured and coughed up blood. He was sent flying. How pitifully weak. Your true form should be a maple tree, right? But unfortunately, you're only an ant, and you're utterly unable to compare to our Blue Pine clan. The people in the little universe outside were really trash. These people laughed loudly. Shengguan Shaoxian shouted angrily, Shut up! Our junior master Lin is not here. Otherwise he could kill you with one slap. Junior Master Lin? Was he very powerful? Humph, Shengguan Shaoxian said. Of course he's powerful. My senior brother Lin, the quadruple crown king, can defeat a boundary emperor. Hee, I'm dying of laughter. Aunt, you must be dreaming. No matter how strong the quadruple crown king was, he would not be a match for a boundary emperor. The people in the little universe outside were really idiots. The people around them laughed coldly. The people of the Blue Pine clan said, They did not intend to let you live. Die. They unleashed a peerless attack. Were they going to die? Fu Hongye and Shengguan Shaoxian. They were in despair. However, at this moment, a saber light slashed down from the sky, sending the people of the Blue Pine clan flying. Who was it? Who dared to meddle in our business? They looked up at the sky. In the next moment, their pupils constricted because they realized that it was a boundary emperor who had arrived. Boundary Emperor Tianshui. Greetings, Senior. The people of the Blue Pine clan did not dare to be presumptuous anymore, and all of them bowed respectfully. Shengguan Shaoxian and Hongya were also dumbfounded. It was not their junior master, but another boundary emperor. They did not know this boundary emperor. Would he save them? They did not think so. Boundary Emperor Tianshui was originally here to investigate the Moon Palace, but when he was flying, he heard Shengguan Shaoxian's conversation below. The quadruple crown king could defeat a boundary emperor, and he was from the little universe. This reminded him of someone. It was Lin Gongzi whom he had just met. He guessed that there was only one such heaven-defying genius. The junior master Lin Xian that these people were talking about was very likely to be Lin Xian. That was why he decided to save them. He asked, May I ask if the junior master that you two are talking about is called Lin Xian? Senior, you know our junior master? Shengguan Shaoxian and Hongye exclaimed. Where was he? As expected. Boundary Emperor Tianshui nodded. He said, I know him. He looked up at the people of the Blue Pine clan and said, These two people are somewhat related to me. You guys can leave. Yes, we dare not disobey Senior's orders. Although the people of the Blue Pine clan were unwilling, they could not do anything in front of a boundary emperor. Therefore, they could only retreat. Shengguan Shaoxian and Hongye began to ask about Lin Xian. Boundary Emperor Tianshui said, Perhaps he has already entered the Moon Palace. This is not a place where the two of you can come. Leave. He waved his hand and sent the two of them away. Then he also rose into the air and flew toward the Moon Palace. On the other side, the people of the Blue Pine clan gritted their teeth after leaving. They were unwilling to die. Were they going to let those two people go just like that? Don't worry, Boundary Emperor Tianshui. We'll definitely go to the Moon Palace. We will make our move after Boundary Emperor Tianshui leaves. They did not give up, but continued to wait for an opportunity. It seemed that they wanted to make a move on Shengwan Xiaoxian and Hongya. Inside the Moon Palace, after everyone entered, they were extremely shocked. The inside was much bigger than they had imagined. It seemed to be a space of its own. After Lin Xian and the others entered, they looked around cautiously. The aura inside was extremely mysterious and ancient. This should be related to a certain emperor. They were surprised. Boom, boom. All of a sudden, the void trembled as a terrifying wind blew past. There seemed to be ancient battle armor in the wind. Those people were extremely cold and creepy. Heavens, they should not be the legendary Yin soldiers, right? The surrounding people were shocked. Poof. At this moment, the Yin soldiers in the wind attacked. One of the sabers slashed over, instantly cutting a few people in half. Miserable screams rang out. The others also shouted angrily, "Damn it, attack!" They were bold because of their skills. Some of them were triple crown champions, quadruple crown champions, and even boundary emperors. Therefore, they were not afraid of anything. In an instant, they charged toward the back. However, at this moment, a quadruple crown champion screamed. His heart was instantly dug out and crushed. The other two triple crown champions were beaten into pieces. Even a quasi-emperor was knocked back. Everyone was stunned. Damn it, they were too strong. These were not ordinary Yin soldiers. They could not resist. Moreover, as the wind blew, there seemed to be an overwhelming number of Yin soldiers in the surroundings. Those people stood in the darkness, staring at them like the Grim Reaper. Chapter 5630. Retreat, retreat, quickly. At this moment, the surrounding people were terrified. They quickly retreated. At this moment, a figure seemed to appear in the sky. It was a huge, pale face. It looked like it was crying and laughing at the same time. Just like that, it pressed down from the sky. Everyone looked up at the sky. Their scalps were numb, especially some of the girls. They were so scared that they were about to cry. What kind of existence was this? This was especially true for that pale face. The aura of death that was emanating from it was simply too terrifying. Some of the quasi-emperors were instantly sent flying. The pale face let out a breath. Instantly, more than 10 Triple Crown champions turned into white bones. Run quickly. These people retreated in all directions. They were all stunned. Who would have thought that the Moon Palace would be so terrifying? How was this the Moon Palace? This was hell. Some of the Triple Crown champions were even afraid and wanted to return. However, they realized that there was no way back. It was an abyss. Run. They could only run inside. In an instant, everyone scattered. Lin Xian also frowned. Kaiser Blood, who was beside him, exclaimed, "What the hell was this?" He threw out a few palms, but his blood was in turmoil. "Let's go." Lin Xian looked around with his Rinnegan. His expression was not good. He realized that the number of Yin soldiers was greater than he had imagined. Once they came out, even he would not be able to stop them. Therefore, they all rushed forward. Screams could be heard from behind. Many of the Triple Crown champions and Quadruple Crown champions had fallen. Even a quasi-emperor was severely injured. His internal organs were torn apart, and his body was split in half. Everyone fled, as if they had gone mad. However, the people outside did not know that. There were even more people rushing over from afar, flying towards the Lunar Palace. Among them, the Sky Water Patriarch entered. After him, a mysterious girl arrived. She was surrounded by a golden vortex. Her eyes shone with starlight. She was dressed in white and was extremely beautiful. If Lin Xian was here, he would definitely recognize her. She was Shen Jingqiu. When Shen Jingqiu arrived at the Moon Palace, her body trembled. In the next moment, she took a deep breath and flew inside. After Shen Jingqiu was Yao Guang. Yao Guang was also here. Quasi-Emperor Nine Heavens said, "Do you want to go in and take a look?" Yao Guang nodded and flew in as well. It was at this moment that another group of people flew over from afar. The auras of these people were incomparably powerful, and they even carried with them a powerful bloodline pressure. They were dragons, and there were countless of them. All of them flew up into the air toward Yufeng. The one in the lead was a tall man. He was Long Jiang. The seventh dragon general swept out with his spear, breaking through everything. Behind him, surrounded by countless dragons, was a woman with a laurel crown on her head. She was like a peerless queen, high and mighty. He was the Dragon Queen. The group of people arrived at this place and quickly went in. After these people entered, they were all blown by the Yin wind. Following this, Yin soldiers appeared, and a great battle erupted. The old ancestor of the heavenly Yin sect felt his scalp go numb as he instantly fled. However, Shen Jingqiu seemed to have expected this, and wasn't shocked at all. A total of 365 vortexes appeared on his body, with mysterious figures spiraling inside them, emitting heavenly voices. The surrounding Yin soldiers seemed to have stopped moving. Instead of attacking him, they opened up a path for him. Shen Jingqiu quickly walked in and disappeared. The Dragon Queen and the others who came in later were also attacked by the Yin soldiers. The people of the 1,000 Dragons court gasped. The seventh dragon general shouted coldly, "How dare you be so rude to the Dragon Queen?" He stabbed out with his spear, breaking open the heavens and earth. However, the Yin soldiers did not run away. Instead, they quickly rushed over. A pale face appeared in the sky. Looking down from the sky, it was like a ghost. It made one's scalp tingle. The Dragon Queen said coldly, "I am the Dragon Emperor's wife. I am here to seek cooperation." His voice was instantly transmitted into the room. In the next moment, the Yin soldiers retreated like the tide. The Dragon Queen waved her hand. She quickly let her people in and disappeared. The others were not so lucky. After entering, they could only move forward. Turning back was an abyss. They had no way out. At first, everyone was in the main hall, but then everyone fled in different directions. Lin Xian had many people with him. Among them, Kaiser Blood followed Lin Xian. He wanted to run away, but he changed his mind. When the Yin soldiers came from behind, they could not beat them at all. However, Lin Xian could send the Yin soldiers flying with one strike. This kind of strength was extremely powerful, especially Kaiser Blood. He could feel that the sword qi was invincible. It could even break the Yin soldiers. Such power was something he could only look up to. As such, he chose to stay by Lin Xian's side. But fortunately, the Yin soldiers only chased for a short distance before disappearing. Another gust of wind blew, and all of them disappeared. They heaved a sigh of relief. This was great. They could go back now, right? Some of them wanted to go back. However, after a few steps, the Yin soldiers appeared again and pierced through them. There was no way back. From the looks of it, they could only continue to press forward. The group of people continued walking forward. Finally, they stopped. There was no road ahead. There was a huge river in front of them. It was surging and roaring. When they arrived, they were even more shocked. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. This river was too strange. It was like stagnant water. This was especially so when there was a stone stele on the riverbank. There were 2 words written on it, Yellow Springs. When everyone saw it, they were stunned. Even the quasi-emperors were shocked. Yellow Springs? Isn't this the legendary existence of hell? Why would it appear here? Is this really the Lunar Palace? Who cares about the Yellow Springs? I don't believe it. A middle-aged man charged over. A boundless sea appeared on his body. He was a water-attributed quadruple crown king. He charged forward. In an instant, he arrived in the Yellow Springs. He wanted to cross the Yellow Springs. However, at this moment, a white claw appeared from the Yellow Springs. That claw was made of bones. Then, it grabbed this middle-aged man and pulled him into the Yellow Springs. The Yellow Springs churned. That middle-aged man instantly turned into white bones, dead. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all went crazy. Although the quadruple crown king was not a quasi-emperor, he was still the strongest under quasi-emperor. Yet, he died silently just like that. There were Een soldiers behind them and the Yellow Springs in front. Did they have nowhere to go? Kaiser Blood's scalp went numb. He did not believe it. He used the law of his shoes to form a clone and flew forward. However, when he arrived above the Yellow Springs, his clone shattered. Kaiser Blood's chi and blood churned. The other quasi-emperors all tried, but it was the same. For a moment, they did not dare to act rashly. At this moment, the Yellow Springs churned again. A head floated up. The face of the head was pale, as if it was swollen. Yellow spring water flowed from its mouth as it spoke in a cold voice, divine Tao. Immortal Tao. What is Tao? The voice was hoarse, making one's scalp go numb. Chapter 56:31. Kaiser Blood's pupils constricted when he saw the other party. He must be from the Shuiyun clan. Lin Xian frowned. Don't talk nonsense. I know the two boundary emperors from the Shuiyun clan. Kaiser Blood said. No, he should be the boundary emperor from 50,000 years ago. I've seen his portrait before. I'm sure I'm not mistaken. The others were stunned when they heard that. A boundary emperor from 50,000 years ago had died here. The other old woman also frowned. Now that you mention it, I remember that there was an incredible boundary emperor from the Shuiyun clan 50,000 years ago. He reached the level of 7-crown king and was extremely terrifying. However, he mysteriously disappeared later on. I didn't expect him to die here. 7-crown king. Even Lin Xian was shocked. He was an extremely terrifying existence, even among the boundary emperors. How did he die? And why did he come to the Yellow Spring? It seems that he died because of the Great Tao. This place is really too strange. Suddenly, the boundary emperor's head turned in the Yellow Spring water. He stared at Lin Xian and the others and said in a cold voice, Tell me, what is the Great Tao? His voice sounded like the roar of a ghost. The water of the Yellow Springs was boiling as it rushed over in an overwhelming manner. Oh no, don't touch it. The old woman shouted angrily. There was a strong death chi on it. He pushed out his palms and turned them into a forest to block it. The forest that covered the sky, and the earth appeared in the sky. However, when it came into contact with the Yellow Spring water, it instantly disappeared. The trees kept withering. Heaven and earth are righteous. At this moment, another middle-aged man shouted angrily. He took a step forward and formed a seal with his palms. In the center of his palm, a huge illusory figure appeared, as if it was a god. The phantom had an aura that could sweep away everything and fought against the Yellow Spring water. There was a loud bang. It blocked the attack. Great. The middle-aged man smiled. It's called the Hao Ran Quasi-Emperor. It cultivates the righteous energy of heaven and earth. The rest of the people also had hope. However, there was a loud bang. The righteous energy of heaven and earth. It suddenly shattered. The Hao Ran Quasi-Emperor was also sent flying. One of its arms had turned into bones. The others were in despair. This Yellow Springs water was too terrifying. These quasi-emperors were powerless to do anything. At the other side, Lin Xian was also enveloped by the Yellow Springs water. He coldly snorted. 9 suns opened the sky. The flames on his body turned into a sun and soared into the sky. In an instant, it turned into the sun god's sword and slash forward. This young man was too reckless. Quasi-Emperor Hao Ran frowned. Even he wasn't a match for him. So why was a quadruple champion trying to be a hero? The people around him also shook their heads. In their opinion, Lin Xian should be a junior brought here by Kaiser Blood. Such a person dared to be so arrogant in such a place. And from the looks of it, Kaiser Blood didn't seem to have any intention of helping. Could it be that this young man had been abandoned by Kaiser Blood? How sad! A violent boom was heard as the sword hit the yellow spring water. The yellow spring was directly split open. A crack appeared in the yellow spring, and it flew past Lin Xian on both sides. Lin Xian was safe and sound. The surrounding people were shocked. Quasi-Emperor Hao Ran's pupils constricted. Quasi-Emperor Mandela was also surprised. The surrounding people were even more shocked. This young man was too terrifying. Was he really just a quadruple champion? Why did they feel that he was more terrifying than a quasi-emperor? They wanted to ask Kaiser Blood who he was. But at this moment, they saw Kaiser Blood respectfully say, "I admire young master's strength." The surrounding people were stunned. They didn't expect Kaiser Blood to be so respectful. Could it be that they had guessed wrongly? It wasn't this young man who followed Kaiser Blood, but Kaiser Blood who followed this young man. Thinking of this, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Was this an old monster from the depths of the deity ground? They were extremely puzzled at this thought. Quasi-Emperor Hao Ran walked over and said with a fist salute, "How should I address you?" Quasi-Emperor Mandela also asked Kaiser Blood. Kaiser Blood didn't know either. He was defeated by Lin Xian. He didn't know who Lin Xian was. "My name is Lin Xian. You don't have to be so polite. This yellow spring is very strange, and we need to work together. So it's Lin Gongzi." Quasi-Emperor Mandela smiled. "Young master, if there is a way, we will do our best." However, there were also people who frowned, such as the Rakshasa Quasi-Emperor. This was a woman. Her face was dainty and beautiful, and her eyes were filled with killing intent. She said coldly, "Lin Gongzi, you are too careless. Although you are strong, don't forget that the owner of the head inside is Seven Crown King. All of us together are no match for him." As soon as she said this, the other people also began to discuss. "Yes, does this young man really have a way?" Lin Xian said, "Seven Crown King was powerful when he was alive, but he was dead, and seemed to have been dead for a long time. A head can't cause a storm." "How arrogant!" Quasi-Emperor Luo Sha snorted. At this moment, the Quasi-Emperor's head in the yellow spring also let out a mournful roar. Countless white bones and corpses appeared in the yellow spring. Then, the water of the yellow spring roared and turned into a hell dragon. It roared between heaven and earth. "Damn it, you brat, you've angered him. Hurry up and retreat." Quasi-Emperor Luo Sha and the others quickly retreated. Only Lin Xian was still standing there. He stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly, "You are already dead. Do you still want to appear here? Enter reincarnation." Lin Xian's Rinnegan bloomed and formed the 6 paths of reincarnation that rotated between heaven and earth. It pressed forward. The quasi-emperors behind him were shocked when they saw the power of reincarnation. This was the aura of reincarnation. It was unbelievable that he had this kind of power. Who exactly was he? These quasi-emperors were all from the chosen immortal clan, but they had never heard of any chosen immortal clan that had the power of reincarnation. Unless he came from the depths of the deity ground, their scalps went numb when they thought of that place. Even Quasi-Emperor Luo Sha did not dare to say anything. The illusion of the 6 paths of reincarnation collided with the yellow spring in the sky, letting out an earth-shattering roar. For a moment, the 2 sides were in a deadlock. At this moment, the quasi-emperor's head also let out a mournful cry. It's just the 6 paths of reincarnation. It's not the real 6 paths. It can't do anything to me. His head began to swallow the water of the yellow spring and became incomparably swollen. A terrifying aura of death spread out. Lin Xian frowned. As expected of the 7-crowned king, he was still so terrifying even after death. He turned his head and said to the people behind him, "What are you waiting for?" He injected his power into the 6 paths of reincarnation. The quasi-emperors behind were stunned. They were all old ancestors who had lived for countless years and were worshipped by many. After being worshipped by countless people, a young man actually dared to reprimand him. It really made them angry, but they still did as they were told, because they realized that they could only continue to walk forward with the help of Lin Xian's power. Chapter 5632. In the sky of the 6 paths of reincarnation, the phantoms of the 6 worlds became more and more terrifying and began to suppress the Yellow River. The Yellow River that filled the sky was suppressed. Lin Xian was like the god of the heavenly Tao, stepping on the 6 paths of reincarnation. He walked forward. The surrounding quasi-emperors also followed him. They finally passed the Yellow River. These people all heaved a sigh of relief after passing the Yellow River. They felt like they had survived a disaster. At this moment, someone snorted coldly. "Kid, don't you think you went too far before? Who do you think you are? How dare you scold us?" Some quasi-emperors instantly turned hostile. If not for the fact that Kaiserblood was still around, the quasi-emperors would have attacked Lin Xian already. They felt that Lin Xian only had the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation, and his true strength was no match for these quasi-emperors. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes and sneered. "What? You dare to be arrogant now? Why didn't you shout when you asked me for help before? Since you asked me for help, you should have the attitude of a beggar. If you feel uncomfortable and don't want to bow down, you can leave by yourself." The 2 quasi-emperors left. One of them said coldly, "Kaiserblood can't always be by your side. When you are alone, I will let you know what despair is." They sneered. The 2 of them turned into flowing light and walked forward. The surrounding quasi-emperors were also thinking about whether they should continue to stay by Lin Xian's side. Suddenly, there was a loud clang in front of them, followed by a scream. Everyone's soul shook. The quasi-emperors also retreated, as if they were facing a great enemy. Even Lin Xian's expression changed. The miserable shriek in front of them was incomparably familiar to them. It was because it was the 2 quasi-emperors who had just left. What happened? These people used their soul to look, and the next moment they were extremely shocked. They discovered that of the 2 quasi-emperors in front of them, the man's body had been torn apart and turned into a bloody mist. The other old man was also in a miserable state. Half of his body was gone. "Save us." The 2 of them quickly called for help. The other quasi-emperors didn't dare to help at all. The 2 of them looked at Lin Xian and begged him to help. Lin Xian sneered. "What? Now you know how to beg me. Who was it that wanted to kill me?" Clang! Another sound rang out. The 2 people in front of him were instantly annihilated. All the quasi-emperors gasped. 2 quasi-emperors had died just like that. What was that sound? It was too dangerous ahead. It seemed that Yellow Springs was only the beginning. There were even more terrifying existences behind them. They had originally wanted to leave, but now they chose to stay by Lin Xian's side. A woman said, "Lin Gongzi, this place is so dangerous. Why don't we go together? At least we can take care of each other." "Yes, Lin Gongzi, let's go together." The other old woman also spoke. Kaiserblood followed closely behind Lin Xian. Lin Xian smiled. So, what if he was a quasi-emperor? He still had to lower his head in front of him. He said, "All right, let's go and see what's up ahead." With Lin Xian leading the way, the quasi-emperors felt a little safer. After all, the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation was extremely terrifying. It might even play a key role. The group of people walked forward cautiously. The nomological laws on their bodies danced continuously, and the power of the immortal chi seed surrounded them. Finally, they came to the front and saw a sky full of blood mist, as well as the broken pieces of weapons. The quasi-emperors' faces turned ugly. The 2 quasi-emperors who were with them earlier were now completely annihilated. And what exactly was that voice? They looked ahead carefully. The next moment, they were stunned. There was a large bell in front of them. It stood there like a small mountain. The bell was green and seemed to be made of jade. It was unusually mysterious. There were flowing lights on it. At the bottom right corner of the bell, there was a crack. There was even a gap where it connected to the ground. The bell was damaged. Could it be that the sound just now was from this bell? Everyone was puzzled. At this moment, Quasi-Emperor Mandela exclaimed, "Could it be the legendary Azure Bell?" "What? It can't be!" The other people also exclaimed in surprise. This was a legendary weapon that was extremely terrifying and mysterious. However, it had long disappeared in the passage of time. They didn't expect it to appear here now. It should be the Azure Bell. Damn it, what kind of existence is this moon palace? Why does it have such a lost thing? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes after hearing this. He said, "What is the Azure Bell?" The blood ancestor said, "A long time ago, there was a terrifying expert in our deity ground. He had the hope of becoming an emperor. He forged a weapon called the Azure Bell. When the bell rang, it could destroy anyone's body and soul. However, later on, he competed with others to become an emperor and failed. He died. In that battle, a crack had appeared in the Jade Drop sect. It was incomplete. Later on, that person died with hatred, but the Azure Bell was passed down. Later on, it was said that another person obtained the Azure Bell and swept through the world like the sun at noon. Everyone thought that there would be a second person who became an emperor. However, that person and the Jade Drop Bell disappeared together, never to be seen again. Was it a weapon refined by someone who almost became an emperor? Lin Xian was also surprised after hearing this. This thing was very terrifying. He also felt an extremely terrifying and mysterious aura from it. However, Lin Xian was not afraid. This time, he came with half of the sky-devouring crown. Her skin was fair, but she was wearing a black robe. The 2 colors formed a strong pair. The black-robed woman chuckled and said, "You dare to offend the King of Jade Fall? Are you tired of living?" "What? King of Jade Drop?" Kaiser Blood was shocked. Quasi-Emperor Mandala said, "He's still alive." Lin Xian frowned. "Who's the King of Jade Fall?" Kaiser Blood said, "Young master, do you still remember the story I told you? The King of Jade Fall was the second person to obtain the Jade Drop Bell. He was very likely to become a great emperor, but he mysteriously disappeared. At that time, the King of Jade Fall had already reached the level of 8-crown king. Countless people thought highly of him. Later on, he mysteriously died, causing countless people to sigh. They didn't expect him to be in the Moon Palace. And after so many years, he was still alive. 8-crown king. Lin Xian's pupils constricted when he heard this. Even among quasi-emperors, this was extremely terrifying. After all, the legendary 10-crown king was very difficult to achieve. 8-crown king was already very terrifying. DeLong also said, "Kid, be careful. If someone like this makes a move, hurry up and use an extreme weapon to escape." Lin Xian also took a deep breath. Was 8-crown king really that terrifying? Of course, he knew that if 8-crown king worked with the Jade Drop Bell, he would be able to sweep through everything. However, who was the woman behind him? They had encountered many terrifying existences before, such as the Een soldiers and the quasi-emperor's head. Moreover, there was the King of Jade Fall in front of them. No one could communicate with them. Only this mysterious woman behind them could. Could it be that this woman was also a quasi-emperor? Quasi-Emperor Mandala said, "Miss, which clan are you from? Since you know where he came from, can you take us away?" Yes, the other quasi-emperors also spoke up. "Which clan are you from?" "Humph, you must be from the outside. You're really bold. How dare you come to this place? But since you're here, don't think about leaving. As for who I am, I've been here since I was born. I don't know which clan I'm from, but I remember that they all called my father the Soul Emperor." Soul Emperor! The quasi-emperors were stunned. Was she the daughter of a great emperor? Lin Xian was also shocked. The daughter of a great emperor in the deity ground was much stronger than the Fire Qilin and the others. She was at least a quasi-emperor. With such a cultivation, coupled with her bloodline, she was terrifying to the extreme. The quasi-emperor's expressions were ugly. They naturally knew that the Soul Emperor was a supreme, great emperor who had corroborated his soul. He was extremely terrifying. But shouldn't a great emperor go to the depths of the deity ground? Why would he appear in the Moon Palace? Moreover, the Soul Emperor had a daughter who had been staying in the Moon Palace all this time. What was in the Moon Palace? So, it was the princess. "Greetings, daughter of the Soul Emperor." The quasi-emperors around them bowed. Someone asked, "Is the Soul Emperor still here?" The Soul Emperor's daughter shook her head. "I don't know. I don't know how long it has been since I last saw my father, but I'm really surprised that you all can appear here, because in these years I've only seen a few strange fellows. I've never seen normal people like you all. Quickly tell me, is it fun outside?" The quasi-emperors were about to cry. The King of Jade Fall was still standing beside them. Who would be in the mood to talk about the outside world? Lin Xian said, "If I tell you, can you take us away? Or help me subdue the Jade Fall Bell?" The quasi-emperors cried again. "Young master, please don't have any ideas about the Jade Fall Bell. Okay? We can't afford to be tormented like this." The Soul Emperor's daughter shook her head. "I can leave by myself, but can I take you with me?" "I'm afraid not, because you've already offended the King of Jade Fall. That guy is terrifying. I don't want to be enemies with him." Everyone fell into despair. Even the daughter of a quasi-emperor was afraid of the King of Jade Fall. One could imagine how terrifying the King of Jade Fall was. At this time, Dalong said, "If she was the daughter of the Soul Emperor, then she should also cultivate the Soul Tao. If you give her the Soul Calming Wood, she should help you." Chapter 56:34. The Soul Subduing, which should be in the Sword World. As for its use, according to Dalong, Lin Xian didn't need it for the time being. However, the other party seemed to be very useful. Lin Xian transmitted his voice. "Little White, go and find the soul-subduing wood for me." Little White had been sleeping and eating spirit fruits in the Four-Spirit Valley. At this moment, hearing Lin Xian's voice transmission, he quickly flew towards the depths of the Sword World. Not long after, Little White flew out. What a cute little monkey. The Soul Emperor's daughter was also happy when she saw it. The surrounding quasi-emperors were also surprised. Lin Xian actually had a pet. I've never seen it before. The Soul Emperor's daughter originally wanted to take a closer look at the little monkey, but when she saw the soul-subduing wood in Little White's hand, she was stunned. She sucked in a breath of cold air. "Could it be the soul-subduing wood?" she exclaimed. The surrounding people were also surprised. "It can't be. The soul-subduing wood is an extremely rare item. This little monkey actually has it?" Little White gave the soul-subduing wood to Lin Xian. Then with a swoosh, it turned into a white light and disappeared. The little guy liked to stay in the sword world during this period of time. Lin Xian said, "That's right. It's the soul-subduing wood. I'll give it to you. How about you take me out of here safely? All right, I'll give it a try. There shouldn't be a problem." The Soul Emperor's daughter nodded. Although the Jade Drop King ahead was very terrifying, the soul-subduing wood was extremely useful to him. He wanted it. When the others heard this, they were stunned. What? The Soul Emperor's daughter was willing to help. They were anxious. "Lin Gongzi, please take me with you. Lin Gongzi, we're together. You can't leave us behind." The quasi-emperors were very anxious. The Blood Kaiser came to Lin Xian's side and said, "From now on, I will respect the young master. If the young master has any orders, I will do anything." He was an old fox. He knew that ordinary words wouldn't be able to move the other party. He had to pay a price. The surrounding people were shocked. Damn it, they didn't expect the blood ancestor to lower his head like this. Could it be that he no longer wanted the dignity of a quasi-emperor? Lin Xian looked at Kaiser Blood and said, "Thank you. I can take you away. Thank you, young master." Kaiser Blood was overjoyed. He was so pleased with himself that he forgot about the quasi-emperors around him and laughed coldly. Between face and life, which was more important? When the surrounding people heard this, their souls trembled. There was no way they would be able to defeat Bai Luo if they were to stay here, especially when the Moon Palace was so terrifying. Aside from the Jade Drop King, there should be other unknown dangers lurking around. If they couldn't get out, they would definitely die. Therefore, these people also said that from now on, they would follow young master's lead. "We are willing to respect young master." Voices rang out one after another. Helpless, these quasi-emperors could only lower their heads. "Oh, really?" Lin Xian narrowed his eyes as well. The corners of his lips curled up, although he knew that these quasi-emperors did not sincerely submit to him. So what? As long as the other party stayed by their side, he would convince them sooner or later, because his trump cards were not limited to these. He said, "Then I ask the daughter of the Soul Emperor to lead us away." "All right, I'll give it a try." "There are so many of you, hurry up," the daughter of the Soul Emperor said. Lin Xian said, "Everyone, follow me." The other quasi-emperors followed him and retreated. At this time, Bai Luo moved again. His hollow eyes turned around and stared at the crowd. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. It was as if they were being stared at by an ancient demon god. The surrounding void continued to shatter as an oppressive aura spread out in all directions. Lin Xian took a deep breath and formed the black vortex again to resist. At the same time, the daughter of the Soul Emperor also moved. He waved his hand and put away the soul-calming wood. Buzz. He formed a seal with his palm again. A terrifying and mysterious aura appeared around him as well. Then, a bead appeared in his hand. It was called a soul bead. As soon as it appeared, a terrifying soul energy swept out in all directions. The other quasi-emperors felt their scalps go numb. As expected of the daughter of the Soul Emperor, the thing in her hand was definitely left behind by the Soul Emperor. After the soul bead appeared, a mysterious voice sounded. It was bleak and ancient, as if it came from the ancient times. The Bai Luo bell in front of them shook incessantly. 8-Crown King roared at the sky. He let out a shrill cry, as if he had gone mad. It was as if he had gone mad. The daughter of the Soul Emperor said, "Hurry up and leave. I can't hold on for much longer." Lin Xian and the others didn't dare to stay. They immediately flew away. They were extremely fast. In an instant, they turned into lightning and disappeared. After that, the daughter of the Soul Emperor also tore open the void and disappeared. Once they were gone, the King of Jade Fall's eyes began to glow with a strange green light. He roared at the sky, and the Bai Luo bell erupted. Raging waves slammed against the shore. The shrill sound caused the 9 heavens and 10 earths to shatter. Countless black holes appeared in the surrounding void. Under this sound, even a quasi-emperor would undoubtedly die. On the other side, although Lin Xian and the others had left, they still felt the terrifying sound behind them. They sucked in a breath of cold air. This time, it was all thanks to the daughter of the Soul Emperor. Otherwise, they would have died. Even Lin Xian was surprised. As expected of 8 Crown King, he was indeed strong. Although there was something wrong with Bai Luo's condition, he was still undefeatable. The voice of the daughter of the Soul Emperor drifted over. "Thank you for the soul's subduing wood." He didn't follow the others. He left alone. Lin Xian nodded. The surrounding people were surprised. The daughter of the Soul Emperor was indeed extraordinary. At the same time, they were somewhat disappointed. If she had been with them, they would have been much safer. Kaiser Blood came to Lin Xian's side. "Lin Gongzi, let's go." The other quasi-emperors also turned around. Although the daughter of the Soul Emperor wasn't with them, Lin Xian was. It was also much safer. They also said, "Lin Gongzi, we are willing to follow you." The group set off again. In fact, they weren't the only ones in danger. The other places were also in danger. Some quasi-emperors joined forces to resist, but they still couldn't stop it. Many people had died. Because of this, the double crown kings and triple crown kings were even more miserable. They couldn't resist at all. At this moment, an extremely terrifying might of the extreme Tao erupted between heaven and earth, vast and desolate. Many people looked up. It was an extreme Tao weapon. Did a heavenly emperor clan enter? Who was it? Lin Xian also sensed it. He looked at the void mirror in the distance. The Gu clan had also entered. He didn't know what kind of danger they encountered, but they actually activated the void mirror. On the other side, a man in cotton clothes walked through the passageway. There was no one around. A cold wind blew, making one's hair stand on end. It was Yao Guang. Yao Guang's face was cold. He said, "Damned old man, 9 firmaments. Why is this place so dangerous? Are you trying to trick me?" 9 firmaments also said, "How would I know? This moon palace was previously sealed. This should be the first time it's been opened. Who knew that it would be so dangerous? Hurry up and find a way out." 9 firmaments was a quasi-emperor, but the current situation exceeded his understanding. There were so many terrifying existences around. He even saw 8 Crown King. Such a person was here, his eyes empty, like a puppet. Just who was behind the moon palace? It was probably a heavenly emperor. He didn't dare to be impudent here. Chapter 5635. Yao Guang said, as he went to look at the other corpses. There were so many experts who had fallen here. If he could obtain some, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. He might even break through to become a quasi-emperor. However, the situation was beyond his expectations. Those who had fallen were all enveloped by the yellow spring water. Yao Guang roared, scram. He charged towards the yellow spring water. A terrifying black vortex swallowed the heavens and the earth. He executed the extremely terrifying heaven-devouring demonic art. He wanted to snatch back those quasi-emperor corpses. However, countless white bone claws appeared in the yellow spring water and charged towards him. There was even a quasi-emperor's head that let out a mournful roar. It was as if the gates of hell had been opened. Yao Guang fought for a while and was actually sent flying. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood. He was injured. Damn it, he could only give up on these quasi-emperor corpses. Damn it, he couldn't get any benefits at all. He gritted his teeth. On the other side, the beautiful Shen Jingqiu was still walking. Wherever she passed, she actually avoided those mysterious and terrifying existences. She kept walking towards the depths of the Moon Palace. Finally, she arrived in front of an ancient stone door. The stone door emitted a mysterious aura. An ancient great Tao flickered on it. Shen Jingqiu stood there for a long time. Finally, she stretched out her jade-like hand and gently pushed forward. A rumbling sound rang out, and the stone door kept shaking. It finally opened, and Shen Jingqiu walked inside. After she walked in, the stone door closed again, as if it had never been opened. No one knew the entire process. However, a sigh came from the depths of the Moon Palace. It disappeared in an instant, making people think that it was an illusion. On the other side of the Moon Palace, there was a mysterious sea. There was a statue in the sea that stood there like a supreme goddess. At the same time, a group of people walked over from the mysterious ocean. The leader was a woman like the Queen of the Nine Heavens. Her body was sealed by ice crystals. It was the Dragon Queen. She brought the people of the 10,000 dragon court here, and the 10,000 dragons picture surrounded her body. The Dragon Queen said in a deep voice, "I finally found you. How is it? Do you want to join forces? You're actually still alive." In the mysterious sea ahead, the statue of the goddess suddenly let out a deep voice. It was as if it had crossed space and time. At the same time, the world shook as a powerful pressure swept out. The people from the 10,000 Dragon Dynasty felt their scalps go numb. What kind of existence was in front of them? If it weren't for the Dragon Queen, they probably wouldn't have been able to reach it in their lifetime. The seventh dragon general beside him also looked like he was facing a great enemy. Two mysterious and terrifying women began to negotiate here. Lin Xian did not know that Shen Jingqiu had entered, nor did he know that the Dragon Queen had entered. He could only continue walking forward. Their path of retreat had been sealed. If they wanted to leave, they could only continue to explore. There were many passageways in the surroundings that led to many places. Lin Xian stood there and looked around. He said, "Go investigate in different directions and report back after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." The surrounding quasi-emperors began to move. Unknowingly, they had already begun to respect Lin Xian as their leader, because Lin Xian was really too calm. Such a scene scared these quasi-emperors out of their wits. They could only listen to this youth. These quasi-emperors began to search their surroundings. Even Kaiser Blood had left for the moment. For a moment, only Lin Xian was left. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He waited. At this moment, footsteps sounded behind him. Lin Xian turned his head to look. He saw 3 figures behind him. 2 of them were quasi-emperors, and 1 was a quadruple crown king. The quadruple crown king was a youth. It seemed that they were also from the chosen immortal tribe. The 3 people behind him were also surprised when they saw Lin Xian. Someone had actually arrived here before them? When they saw that Lin Xian was only a quadruple champion, and that he was by himself, they all laughed. "Humph, it's actually a youth. It's really surprising that he could come here. I think he's just lucky." "That's good. We're lacking someone to scout the way. Let this lucky kid scout the way for us." The 2 quasi-emperors sneered. The quadruple crown king also walked out and said, "Kid, listen to us and we'll let you live. Otherwise, you'll die without a burial place." They had extremely terrifying auras. They were from the giant sea race. "With just you 2? Lin Xian snorted coldly. "It's best if you submit and apologize. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." 2 quasi-emperors want to threaten me? One had to know that Lin Xian was not alone now. A group of quasi-emperors had gathered around him. However, those people had gone to scout the way and had not returned. Once they returned, they would completely outnumber the other party. These 2 quasi-emperors were not qualified to be arrogant in front of him. The 2 quasi-emperors did not know that. The youth was also angry. "Are you courting death? How Dare you be disrespectful to my ancestor? Looks like I have to teach you a lesson. He slapped out with his palm. His palm turned into an abyssal sea, bringing with it a heavy pressure as it pressed down on the ground. He wanted to suppress Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered. There was a trace of biting cold light in his eyes. He waved his hand. The true water sword technique flew over and turned into a true water dragon. It directly bound the deep sea that filled the sky. The quadruple crown king's body shook. The quasi-emperor behind him was also surprised. True water sword technique. You're from the Shuiyun tribe. Humph, the other quasi-emperor sneered. Is the Shuiyun tribe's quasi-emperor here? If not, then you can prepare to die. Boy, obediently scout the way and hand over the true water sword technique. I can give you a chance to live. Lin Xian was also angry. Get lost. Good boy, you have guts. Disciple, suppress him, a quasi-emperor said. The man in front also walked out. He said, Boy, I didn't expect you to be from the Shuiyun tribe. Well, let's see whose water laws are more powerful. He roared angrily, and an endless sea appeared behind him. The momentum was vast and majestic, as if it was going to suppress the 9 heavens. He rushed over and fought with Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian threw out a punch. The golden sun pierced through the endless sea. The quadruple crown king vomited blood and flew backward. Half of his body was split open. He could not withstand the power of the divine fire at all. Damn it, how was this possible? He originally thought that he would definitely have the upper hand in a battle of the same level, but now the other party could easily injure him. The gap was really too big. A mere ant dares to compete with me? Ridiculous. Lin Xian saw that the other party could not even block a punch of his, and immediately sneered. Master, avenge me. The young disciple gritted his teeth. The quasi-emperor behind was also angry. He was called the Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor. His face darkened. Young man, you have some strength. I didn't expect a genius like you to appear in the Shuiyun tribe. However, what I like to do the most is to kill geniuses. Chapter 5636. The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor walked out and sneered. Once he attacked, the other party would definitely die. The difference between a quasi-emperor and a quadruple crown king was like heaven and earth. Just as he was about to attack, the sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor turned around and saw a quasi-emperor walking out. It was an old woman with white hair and holding a walking stick. She also had the aura of a quasi-emperor. It was Quasi-Emperor Mandela. The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor was stunned when he saw her aura. He said, You're here too? When Quasi-Emperor Mandela saw the other party, she nodded slightly. Then she ignored him. This made the Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor frown. What was the other party's purpose? He had to be cautious. Quasi-Emperor Mandela walked past the other party and came in front of Lin Xian. Then she cupped her fists and said, Young master, I've already checked that direction. It doesn't seem to be the way out. What? Seeing this scene, the 3 quasi-emperors from the giant sea clan were stunned. What kind of joke was this? Quasi-Emperor Mandela, a quasi-emperor. She actually bowed to a young man. Damn it, what was going on? What was the background of this young man? Did he have a high status in the Mandela clan? He was stunned. Just as he was about to ask, the sound of something breaking through the air came from another direction. Kaiser blood. This surprised the 2 quasi-emperors. He was also a terrifying quasi-emperor. After Kaiser blood arrived, he came to Lin Xian's side. He also cupped his fists and said respectfully, Young master, it doesn't seem to be the way out. The 2 quasi-emperors from the Deep Sea clan were stunned again. Even a quasi-emperor had to be respectful to him. Damn it, what the hell is going on? Lin Xian said, You 2 have worked hard, but if you came a little later, I'm afraid someone would have suppressed me. Kaiser Blood was instantly angry. Who dared to be disrespectful to young master? Quasi-Emperor Mandela also said, Deep Sea Clan, how dare you go against Lin Gongzi? The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor said, Mandela, who is he? Why are you so respectful to him? Are you crazy? Mandela coldly snorted. Lin Gongzi's strength is not something you can imagine. You dare to offend Lin Gongzi? Quickly apologize. Kaiser Blood said. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Humph. So he has two quasi-emperors backing him up. But so what? We are also two quasi-emperors. The giant sea tribes still refuse to lower their heads. Is that so? Do you really think that there are only two quasi-emperors? Lin Xian smiled. What do you mean? The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor frowned. Was there something else? Just then, voices came from all directions, followed by the arrival of 3 more quasi-emperors, reporting to Lin Gongzi. We didn't find out anything. The people of the Deep Sea race were completely stunned. In the next moment, he made a strong move. He slashed out with his sword and turned it into a giant dragon. It directly sent the Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor flying. There was a scream, and the void shattered. The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor's bones broke, and his entire body was split in half. He screamed miserably. The other Quasi-Emperors also gasped. Lin Xian's strength was so terrifying. Previously, they followed Lin Xian because they were forced to do so. After leaving the Moon Palace, they probably wouldn't care about Lin Xian at all, because in their opinion, Lin Xian only had some mysterious trump cards. For example, he had the soul-subduing wood, or he could curry favor with the Soul Emperor's daughter. Once they left, these methods would be useless. But now, their thoughts had completely changed because Lin Xian's strength was enough to injure a quasi-emperor. This shocked them. Lin Xian's strength was not weaker than theirs. The quadruple crown king was also terrified. His master was easily defeated by Lin Xian. He actually offended such a person before, and he was so scared that he fainted. Damn it. How is this possible? Who are you? The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor roared crazily. He was also dumbfounded. Lin Xian sneered. A mere quadruple crown king is qualified to be arrogant in front of me? You really don't know what death is. If you had knelt down and begged for mercy, I might have spared your life. But you dared to sneak attack me and want to kill me, then I'm sorry. You can go to hell and repent. A cold killing intent appeared in Lin Xian's eyes. You dare to look down on me? The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor roared. However, Lin Xian waved his hand. Didn't you guys say that you want to respect me? It's time for you to show your strength. These words were directed at Kaiser Blood Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others. Chapter 56:37. The 5 quasi-emperors were also stunned, their gazes uncertain. Kaiser Blood snorted coldly and took the initiative to attack. He had been chased by Lin Xian before. Furthermore, he had seen Lin Xian's cultivation method. He knew that if he wanted to survive in the Moon Palace, he had to rely on Lin Xian. As an old fox, he was the first to submit. He instantly charged out. Quasi-Emperor Mandela also attacked. When the other 3 quasi-emperors saw this, they sighed and attacked as well. The 5 quasi-emperors attacked the Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor together. The Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor was scared out of his wits. Damn it, my old friend attacked. 2 quasi-emperors came from the giant sea race. Aside from him, there was another quasi-emperor called Quasi-Emperor Ice Snake. Seeing this scene, he could only smile bitterly. Even if he attacked, he would not be able to defeat them. He could only sigh. Now, he chose to protect himself. 5 against 1. Although the Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor was extremely terrifying, he could send out a huge sea that churned the 9 heavens. In the end, he still could not escape death, his body and soul destroyed. The 5 quasi-emperors had cold expressions, their killing Qi shocking. They turned around and looked at Lin Xian. A strong force swept out. A black whirlpool suddenly appeared on Lin Xian's body, and an extreme Dao aura appeared. At the same time, he snorted coldly and released his Rinnegan. The 5 quasi-emperors trembled. In that instant, after they killed the quasi-emperor, they even felt that they could suppress Lin Xian. Even they had the same thought in their minds. However, when Lin Xian's extreme Dao aura appeared, they immediately came to their senses. The killing Qi on the 5's bodies disappeared. They came before Lin Xian and said respectfully, "Young master, the enemy has been eliminated. There is one more. Do you want to attack?" The 5 of them turned their heads to look at the ice snake. Quasi-Emperor Ice Snake was so frightened that his scalp went numb. He bowed deeply, almost burying his head in the ground. He said, "Young master, please spare me. I am willing to submit." Right after Xiao Qin spoke, he killed the unconscious 4-crown monarch with one strike. This is the Deep Sea Quasi-Emperor's disciple. He offended young master, so I killed him for young master. As for my life, young master, please decide. He acted as if Lin Xian was his superior. He could tell that Lin Xian was too mysterious and terrifying. He was no match for the 5 great boundary emperors. A wise man submits to circumstances. You're very sensible. Lin Xian also laughed. He sent a voice transmission to Little White, asking it to bring over a fruit. The sword world had also recovered and had grown some fruits. Not every kind of fruit could increase one's strength. There were poisonous fruits and other effects. For instance, the soul-calming wood. Lin Xian didn't know what it was used for, so he had given it to the Soul Emperor's daughter. This time, he took out a spirit-locking fruit. Given his soul technique, it was impossible for him to completely control a quasi-emperor. However, if one consumed this fruit, even a quasi-emperor would become his puppet. Little White came out and handed the fruit to Lin Xian. Lin Xian waved his hand and said, "Eat it and I'll spare your life." What was that? The surrounding quasi-emperors were also surprised. They felt a mysterious aura from the spirit fruit. At the same time, they were puzzled. Lin Xian actually had so many treasures on him. The dragon snake quasi-emperor's eyelids twitched wildly. He naturally knew that this was definitely not a treasure. It could be poison or something like that. However, the situation forced him to do so in order to save his life. He could only swallow it. The moment he swallowed it, his soul trembled. He felt as if his soul was locked by chains. Not good. He knew that he had fallen into a trap. This thing could control his soul. However, there was nothing she could do. It was better than death. The one who had locked the other party's soul, the ice snake quasi-emperor, had completely become a puppet. If Lin Xian wanted her to live, she would live. If he wanted her to die, she would die. With a plop, he knelt on the ground and prostrated himself. "Greetings, young master." This scene stunned the surrounding quasi-emperors. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others all gasped. Even Kaiser Blood's face was pale. Although they had already respected Lin Xian, they only bowed. If he asked them to kneel, they would rather die than kneel. Quasi-emperors still had their dignity and face. But now, this ice snake quasi-emperor seemed to have no dignity at all. Was it because of that fruit? Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others gasped. If Lin Xian had let them eat that fruit, they would probably have the same ending. They would become puppets. Thinking of this, when they looked at Lin Xian, their gazes turned into a trace of horror. This young man's methods were too strange, completely beyond their imagination. Lin Xian saw their gazes, and the corners of his mouth curled up. He knew that he had intimidated these quasi-emperors. He stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly, "From now on, respect me as if I'm a god. Greetings, young master." The 5 quasi-emperors bowed respectfully again. This time, their hearts were filled with awe and shock. They did not dare to have any other thoughts. "Let's go, let's continue." Lin Xian continued on his journey. This time, there was another quasi-emperor. Beside him, the 6 quasi-emperors were preparing to lead the way. They were very powerful. Along the way, many figures finally appeared in front of him. These people gathered together and stood there without moving. Lin Xian frowned. He also sensed the aura of an extreme Dao. An extreme Dao weapon had appeared. Was it someone from the Emperor race? When they arrived, they realized that it was not the case. There were a few fragments in front of them that were scattered among the palaces and pavilions. Those fragments were emitting an extreme Dao aura, fragments of an extreme Dao weapon. Kaiser Blood and the others exclaimed. Their eyes were red. Although they were quasi-emperors from the chosen immortal race, they did not have an extreme Dao weapon. Only a great emperor's weapon could be called an extreme Dao weapon. For example, the blue sky bell from before was terrifying, but it was not an extreme Dao weapon. The power of an extreme Dao weapon was too terrifying and carried the might of an extreme Dao. But now, an extreme Dao weapon had actually shattered. What kind of battle had happened? The experts in the deity ground were also shocked. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. It was not the first time he had seen an extreme Dao weapon shattering. Previously, at the bottom of the Demon Sea, he had found a fragment of an extreme Dao weapon. Back then, the Demon Emperor and the green-robed Great Emperor fought, and the weapon shattered. But this time, which Great Emperor would it be? The Moon Palace was indeed mysterious. What had happened here? Lin Xian asked a woman next to him. The woman was dressed in a phoenix robe, and her expression was cold. She was holding a treasure bottle in her hand. Her name was Quasi-Emperor Lungyu. At this moment, she snorted coldly. How dare a puny king of 4 crowns be so rude to her? However, at this moment, the 6 quasi-emperors behind Lin Xian walked out together. They stared at her with an unfriendly expression, which made Quasi-Emperor Lung use expression change. Damn it, what was going on? This kid had 6 quasi-emperors with him. She immediately smiled. How should I address this young man? Cut the crap. Lin Gongzi is asking you a question. Tell me what happened here. Kaiser Blood shouted coldly. Quasi-Emperor Lungyu frowned. Damn it, when had he been scolded? However, the other party's lineup was a little too strong. Therefore, he could only sigh and tell her what had happened. Chapter 5638. Quasi-Emperor Lungyu explained what had happened earlier. It turned out that these people had engaged in a fight when they arrived. They had shaken off the surrounding ruins. A crack appeared, the ruins shattered, and the fragments of these supreme weapons appeared from within. Immediately, the surrounding experts fought over the fragments frantically. In the end, a few of them were instantly pierced through. 2 of them had even died. The others also spat out mouthfuls of blood and retreated. This sent chills down the spine of Quasi-Emperor Lungyu and the others. They did not dare to act rashly and were about to discuss if there was a feasible solution. At this moment, Lin Xian and the others arrived. It seemed that they were not too late. Kaiser Blood and the others were also delighted. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Do you think it's so easy to obtain an emperor weapon? Even a fragment of an emperor weapon was not something a quasi-emperor could obtain. Lin Xian was right. He had once obtained a fragment of an emperor weapon, but that was with the heaven-devouring jar. The others did not have a chance at all. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the other side after hearing this. They were not willing to accept this. It's fine. If you are not willing to accept this, you can try it, Xian said. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the other's eyes lit up. Thank you, young master. They now respected Lin Xian. If Lin Xian did not say anything, they would not have dared to act rashly. However, now that Lin Xian had agreed, how could they miss out on this opportunity? The 6 quasi-emperors walked forward together. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart, causing the scalps of the surrounding people to go numb. This lineup was too powerful. Were the 6 quasi-emperors going to attack together? Countless people looked over. Kaiser Blood and the others roared angrily and jointly struck out their laws, forming a large net. It shrouded the front. They were not greedy and prepared to seize a fragment of the ground ice first. The ground ice fragment in front was red, as if it was stained with blood. After sensing an attack, it immediately shook violently. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions. Everyone was pushed back by this force. Some people directly vomited blood. The 6 quasi-emperors' faces also changed. They felt a terrifying, murderous aura surging toward them. Not good. Attack with all your might. These people shouted angrily and attacked again. All kinds of immortal techniques covered the sky and covered the earth as they attacked forward. However, the Imperial weapon fragment was even more terrifying. The aura it emitted was terrifying. Finally, it pierced through the celestial spells that filled the sky and charged toward the 6 people. The 6 of them were all blasted back. Some of their bodies were shattered, while others were pierced through by the extreme power. Everyone was injured. It can't be, right? Even with 6 great quasi-emperors working together, they still couldn't do anything? Damn it. Is this the power of an extreme weapon? When the surrounding people saw this, their faces were filled with despair. Only Lin Xian had a cold smile on his face. This group of people was really stupid. The 6 quasi-emperors stood up and began to suppress their injuries. They discussed in low voices for a while. Then he shook his head and gave up. He came to Lin Xian's side. "Young master, if we can't do it, do you have a solution?" Kaiser Blood asked. Yes, they all raised their heads and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian had many mysterious trump cards. He might have a way. Let me take a look. Lin Xian walked forward. The surrounding people were also surprised. Is someone going to attack again? However, when they saw Lin Xian's cultivation, they all sneered. How dare a sacred lord be so arrogant? Even if he was the quadruple crown king, he was no match for a quasi-emperor. 6 great quasi-emperors working together couldn't do anything. Does he have a way? These people didn't believe it, and they even sneered. However, Kaiser Blood and the others were looking forward to it. They wondered what this kid could do. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and probed. He wanted to know which great emperor's weapon fragment it belonged to. He felt an extremely terrifying, murderous aura from it. He had never heard of these great emperors. It seemed that he didn't know who they were. At this moment, the fragments of the extreme weapon seemed to have sensed Lin Xian's aura. Immediately, they rose into the air and trembled violently. The blood-red light on it was monstrous, as if it could tear the entire universe apart. Everyone felt a huge pressure. Even Lin Xian's pupils constricted. Damn it, what's going on? He instantly threw out the sky-devouring vortex. Boom, boom. A violent explosion sounded, and a blood-red light shot toward the sky-devouring vortex. It set off an earth-shattering vibration. Lin Xian's blood was also boiling. This was because, after the first one, the next few fragments were the same. The surrounding people were going crazy. What did this kid do? How could he provoke an extreme weapon? What made them even more surprised was that Lin Xian was still alive. He actually managed to block it. Is he more terrifying than the 6 great quasi-emperors? Quasi-emperor Lung Yu gasped. When she saw Lin Xian earlier, she didn't care about him at all. When she saw him earlier, she didn't care about him at all. But now, she was really shocked. This person was indeed more powerful than the 6 great quasi-emperors. The 6 great quasi-emperors were also overjoyed. This seemed to be the aura of an extreme weapon. Could it be that he really had an extreme weapon on him? These people were shocked. Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. This extreme-grade weapon was hostile to him. He shouted coldly and pushed his palm. The black, sky-devouring crown flew out. It collided with the extreme weapon fragment. With a loud clang, a terrifying sound was heard. The sky and the earth were torn apart. This was originally a broken ruin. After the extreme weapon attack, the entire ruin cracked again. A crack appeared. Endless gravel fell down. Everyone was also shocked. They also looked down. Even the extreme Dao fragments that had attacked Lin Xian were sent flying downwards. Lin Xian lowered his head and took a look. Then he gasped, "Kaiser blood," and the others were also stunned. That was his quasi-emperor, who had an extremely terrifying aura. He had killed countless experts along the way. However, in front of such a scene, he was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground. There was a large hall below. It was originally hidden, but because of the collision of extreme weapons, it appeared in the world. The hall was covered with white bones. One of the walls was even made of countless white bones and skulls. Those skulls were all quasi-emperor skulls. Each of them carried the power of the immortal chi fragments. Although tens of thousands of years had passed, and that power had long disappeared, there were still some remnants of aura. The surrounding people were shocked when they sensed it. So many quasi-emperors had died. Moreover, they were killed by force, and their skulls were piled up here. Who was it? Could it be that the owner of this hall was more powerful than a quasi-emperor? Then there was only one possibility. This was the hall of a great emperor. Only such an existence would be able to do such a thing. Lin Xian was also shocked. This was much more terrifying than the quasi-emperor skulls in the Yellow Spring. After all, there were at least hundreds of quasi-emperors here. This was really a killing god. Suddenly, he was stunned because he found another bone. Chapter 56:39. The white bone hall below, except for the wall, was made of the heads of quasi-emperors. The other places were also filled with white bones. Among them, there was an ancient altar. On the altar, there was a hand bone. That bone, it was crystal clear and blue in color. The cold air on it was extremely terrifying. After countless years, the power of the laws had been wiped out. However, when one looked at it, one's soul seemed to be frozen. Even Quasi-Emperor Lung, you exclaimed in surprise. What a terrifying power of ice. A glimmer of light shone in his eyes because he also cultivated the power of ice. If he obtained it, he might be able to break through again. Thinking of this, he could not wait to make a move. He waved his hand. It turned into a crescent moon and descended from the sky, enveloping the blue hand bone. The blue bone arm swayed, and a chill covered the sky and covered the earth. The crescent moon was sealed in ice. An ice array also appeared on Quasi-Emperor Lungyu's palm. Her body stiffened. She hurriedly retreated and shattered the ice. Her face was pale, and she spat out blood. Damn it. It was so terrifying. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's face turned ugly. Then she sighed. It seemed that she was not qualified to obtain it. The other quasi-emperors also wanted to try, but when they saw what happened to Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu, they hesitated. Lin Xian smiled. If you don't have the ability, don't snatch such a great opportunity, because you don't deserve it. What did you say? Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was furious. However, she was afraid of the weapon in Lin Xian's hand, and did not dare to make a move. Take it if you have the guts. She snorted coldly. Lin Xian, however, waved his hand and grabbed downwards. A black vortex appeared on his palm, enveloping the blue hand bone. The blue hand bone released an endless amount of ice, freezing everything in its path. However, in front of the sky-devouring jar, it was still swallowed. Although it was terrifying, it had been tempered for too many years and did not have much power left. The blue hand bone was swallowed, which shocked countless people. Lin Xian was delighted because DeLong told him that this blue hand bone was the bone of a supreme. The bone of a supreme. Lin Xian was even more surprised by the power it carried. He was incomparably familiar with it. This was the power of the Nine Yin. They were the bones of the Nine Yin body. Xue Qi cultivated this kind of physique, and he was very familiar with it. More importantly, he had the Nine Yang body, so he was able to sense it immediately. Had the Nine Yin divine physique been cultivated to the level of a human sovereign, this was truly beyond his expectations. Xiao Chen wondered if he would have the chance to see the Nine Yang body of a human sovereign. He put away the blue hand bone and planned to give it to Xue Qi when he met her. Xue Qi might be able to rely on this blue hand bone to make a breakthrough and become a quasi-emperor. Damn it, was it taken away? Quasi-emperor Lung Yu's expression turned ugly. The others also cried out in surprise. This brat had an extremely powerful weapon in his hands, which made them incomparably envious. Quasi-emperor Lung Yu said, "What's there to be arrogant about? Aren't you just relying on your weapon? Without that weapon, you would be nothing more than an ant in my eyes." "Oh, really?" Lin Xian also laughed. "Do you really think that you can contend against me without a weapon? Isn't this nonsense?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu said, "You are, at most, a quadruple crown king. What qualifications do you have to challenge a quasi-emperor?" Lin Xian shook his head. "Ignorant woman. What did you say?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was furious. She stretched out her hand. A crescent moon spun continuously as it charged forward. The entire void shook again. The surrounding people also cried out in surprise. They saw that Lin Xian did not create a black vortex at all. Was he going to use his own strength to contend against a quasi-emperor? What a joke. This brat would die miserably. Kaiser blood. And the others did not care. They even sneered. When they looked at Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu, there was a trace of pity in their eyes. Only those who had truly fought with Lin Xian knew how terrifying he was. Lin Xian did not use the heaven-swallowing jar. Instead, he threw out a punch. Boundless Nine Suns divine fire flickered on his fist and turned into a sun. The terrifying divine fire, vast and mighty between heaven and earth, collided with Lung Yu's moon. An earth-shattering sound rang out, and heaven and earth kept shaking. The power of ice and fire exploded together. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was originally disdainful. Lung Yu thought that Yi Qingyu's flame would be instantly frozen. However, when he saw the divine fire, his expression changed. She felt that the power of the moon she struck out seemed to have melted. How was this possible? What kind of flame was this? While she was in a daze, the moon shattered, and the punch landed directly on her body. She was sent flying. Her body was charred black, and cracks appeared. Blood dripped from the corner of her mouth again. Damn it, she was injured. She was actually injured by Yi Qingyu's fist. The surrounding people were also in an uproar. This brat was too incredible. Wasn't he just a quadruple crown champion? How could he defeat a quasi-emperor? The gap between the two of them was extremely huge. Countless people were dumbfounded. Could it be that this brat was a genius? Could he fight someone of a higher level? However, this was the first time in their lives that they saw a quadruple crown champion injuring a quasi-emperor. Your ice is so weak that it doesn't pose any threat to me at all. Now, you know the gap between us, right? Lin Xian looked at Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu and said with a smile, "Damn it." Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's expression was ugly, but she did not dare to attack again. She gritted her teeth and wanted to retreat. Lin Xian said, "Do you want to leave?" The illusion of 9 suns circled between heaven and earth. They were like 9 golden crows spreading their wings and flying. Between heaven and earth, there was a sea of fire. Everyone exclaimed when they felt the power of this flame. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu shouted angrily, "You are going too far." "What do you want?" Lin Xian said, "You have challenged me time and time again. Do you want to die? If you don't want to, hand over your immortal technique." Yi Qingyu also cultivated the ice immortal technique, which was very suitable for Xueqi. "Damn it! You dare to covet my immortal technique?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu was completely enraged. "You are courting death," she shouted angrily, and a crescent moon appeared behind her. The phantom of the moon caused the entire moon palace to shake. Countless people were terrified. The power of the moon. This woman can't be using the power of the moon palace, right? Lin Xian also shouted angrily. 6 paths of reincarnation. An extremely terrifying light shadow appeared in his eyes, shaking heaven and earth. Then, a reincarnation sword appeared and slashed down from the sky. Although it was just an illusion, it shocked many people. Some people even knelt on the ground. "Damn it, what is this?" Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's expression became extremely ugly. This was the power of reincarnation. She was so frightened that she turned around and fled. However, how could she escape? The sword fell, and one of her arms was cut off. She was sent flying. Countless cracks appeared on her body, and her arm instantly turned into white bones. She entered the reincarnation sword. She was also severely injured. Lin Xian stepped in the air and pointed his sword forward. "Die or submit." Chapter 5640. Don't kill me. I admit defeat. I'm willing to hand over an immortal technique. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu said quickly. In the face of life and death, immortal techniques could be given up. Lin Xian snorted coldly. She should have been so obedient from the start. The reincarnation light in his eyes disappeared, and the phantom of the reincarnation sword also vanished. The terrifying reincarnation pressure was gone, and the surrounding people breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, when they looked at Lin Xian, their eyes were filled with fear and awe. This person was too strong. Even ordinary quasi-emperors were no match for him at all. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu took out a scroll and said, "Immortal technique, Cold Moon Blade." Lin Xian said, "This technique had better not have any mistakes. Otherwise, no matter where you escape to or the universe, I can kill you." With that, he put away the scroll, turned around, and continued to descend towards the palace of bones below. Quasi-Emperor Lung Yu's face was ugly. Her broken hand bones had regenerated, but she was too ashamed to stay here. She turned around and left. The others also did not dare to get close to Lin Xian. After Lin Xian descended, he used the sky-swallowing jar to block the fragments of the extreme weapon to prevent a sneak attack. At the same time, he used his Rinnegan to look. Under his Rinnegan, he saw a shocking murderous aura. In particular, the heads of those quasi-emperors were roaring crazily. It was a kind of unwillingness. This shocked Lin Xian. Did these quasi-emperors not reincarnate? Then have they formed resentful spirits? He was extremely shocked. Just as he was about to open the 6 paths of reincarnation to investigate carefully, something even more terrifying happened. In the depths of the palace, there was an earth-shattering sound. It was a shrill roar that made one's scalp tingle. Endless cracks appeared in the entire void. And in this palace of bones, those blood-colored extreme weapon fragments also quickly floated, seemingly forming a blood-colored scimitar. On the scimitar, an extreme weapon aura condensed, a figure in a blood-red robe whose face could not be seen clearly, but the murderous aura on his body was extremely terrifying. The moment he appeared, it was as if the god of death had appeared. The The surrounding boundary emperors all knelt on the ground. Lin Xian also felt a huge pressure. He roared, and the dragon inside his body roared. An invincible sword will surrounded him. He stared at the figure in front of him. Fear, incomparable fear. This figure had an extremely powerful extreme path power that made his hair stand on end. Was the other party going to attack? Lin Xian took a deep breath and prepared to activate the Great Dragon Sword Soul and the Heaven Swallowing Jar. That was because this person was incredibly strong, and the threat he felt from King Jadefall was no less than what he felt from King Jadefall. However, at this moment, a figure floated over. Boy, we meet again. Let's go. Lin Xian turned and discovered that it was the Soul Emperor's daughter. The other party said, "Someone is chasing me from behind. I can use someone else to kill him. You can also borrow a knife. We'll leave together." As soon as she finished speaking, her figure disappeared. Behind him, 3 figures walked over. These 3 people were wearing ancient Taoist robes. Their faces were expressionless, and their eyes were hollow. There was a crescent moon between their eyebrows. It was blooming with mysterious moonlight. What was this? Lin Xian was surprised. He felt an extremely ancient and terrifying power. They were from the Moon Clan. Soul Girl ran even faster after saying that. The others were also shocked. The Moon Clan? Could it be related to the Moon Palace? They heard that the Moon Clan had long disappeared. How could they still be alive? The surrounding boundary emperors were also frightened and retreated. Lin Xian took this opportunity to leave. At this moment, the blood-colored figure condensed from the blood-colored scimitar roared and stretched out a blood-colored palm that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The 3 mysterious Moon Clan members also roared. There was a terrifying moonlight between their eyebrows. The 2 sides actually fought. Lin Xian took this opportunity to retreat. "Let's go." The crown princess shouted from afar. Lin Xian nodded and left. The 6 boundary emperors also followed him and flew into the distance. A great battle broke out. It was very terrifying. The others were also terrified. The Moon Palace was too terrifying. There were countless ancient powerhouses in it. The King of Jade Drop, the head of a boundary emperor, the fragment of an extreme Dao weapon, and the Lost Moon Clan. These people seemed to have their own formations. Once they met, they would fight. Then why did these people come here in the first place? This seemed to be a mystery. In the depths of the Moon Palace, in the mysterious sea, the Dragon Queen's expression was incomparably cold. She said, "Are you really not willing?" In front of her, the statue of the goddess on the mysterious sea also let out a low voice. "You can leave." "Humph, since I'm here, I won't leave so easily." The Dragon Queen shouted angrily. "Today, you have to agree even if you don't want to." With a roar, the dragon chi on his body erupted, and his eyes were like lightning. The 10,000 dragons diagram on his body instantly flew out. The 10,000 dragons roared and launched an extreme Dao attack. The anger of 10,000 dragons was incomparably terrifying. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. In the mysterious sea ahead, an ancient tree appeared. The ancient tree was not big, only a meter or so. It released an incomparably mysterious light. There was actually immortal energy hanging from it. At the same time, the mysterious statue of the goddess seemed to have moved. With a boom, the ancient tree in front charged toward the 10,000 dragons diagram. The 10,000 dragon shadows were blocked, forming countless black holes. The Dragon Queen frowned. "The 7 Wonders ancient tree. It's actually still in your hands. You dare to attack me? Unforgivable." The statue of the goddess coldly snorted. The 7 Wonders ancient tree erupted again, its power sweeping through the world. The Dragon Queen also roared angrily and charged forward. The 2 extreme Dao weapons collided. The power caused the Quasi-Emperor's scalps to go numb. The 7th Dragon General and the people of the 10,000 Dragons Court could only kneel on the ground and send their power into the 10,000 Dragons diagram. Other than that, they could not do anything else. Boom! A shocking collision of extreme Dao weapons rang out, spreading throughout the entire Moon Palace. The people in the Moon Palace all looked up at the sky. When they felt this aura, they all sucked in a cold breath. What kind of power is this? It's too terrifying. Why do I feel like it can easily kill Quasi-Emperors? These people have all gone crazy. The people of the Gu family sucked in a cold breath. Extreme Dao weapons. And one of them was actually the power of the 10,000 Dragons diagram. The 10,000 Dragons Court also came here. They were too shocked. On the other side, the Quasi-Emperors beside Lin Xian were also shocked. Even the Soul Emperor's daughter furrowed her eyebrows. Lin Xian's face sank. The 10,000 Dragons diagram. Is it the Dragon Queen? She actually went to the depths of the Moon Palace. He could feel that this power came from an extremely far place. Clearly, this Moon Palace was boundlessly vast. The Dragon Queen had indeed awakened. Lin Xian was surprised. At the same time, she was shocked. Who was the Dragon Queen fighting against? It was also a super powerful and mysterious power that blocked the 10,000 Dragons diagram. From the looks of it, there was also an incredible existence in the Moon Palace. Sensing this aura, the 3 people from the Moon Palace stopped attacking. They quickly flew into the distance, a hint of madness in their eyes. As for the broken full moon scimitar, it soared into the air and charged into the depths of the Moon Palace. Let's go! The demon god wings appeared on Lin Xian's back. He flapped them and moved at his maximum speed. He wanted to leave this place. However, at this moment, the blood-colored light appeared again in the distance. The broken full moon scimitar actually charged over at an extremely fast speed. Moreover, its target was Lin Xian. Chapter 56:41. Not good. Seeing that the extreme Dao weapon had returned, the surrounding people quickly fled. Kaiser Blood and the others also felt their scalps go numb. They also quickly left. Lin Xian frowned because he found that no matter where he went, the full moon scimitar seemed to have locked onto him. Damn it, it was coming for him. He snorted coldly and struck out with his sword to block it. With a clang, the sword chi was bounced away. The fragments of the extreme weapon seemed to want to merge together and completely recover. In the end, the fragments quickly scattered when they approached Lin Xian, forming an encirclement. It enveloped Lin Xian. It was coming for that kid. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all exclaimed in surprise. Not good, Lin Gongzi, be careful. Quasi-Emperor Mandela and the others also exclaimed. They watched from afar, but no one dared to get close. A fragment of the extreme weapon could pierce through them. Lin Xian also frowned. There was a terrifying black vortex around him, bobbing up and down. At the same time, a monstrous sword chi rose from his body. Why was this thing targeting him? Was it because he had an extreme weapon? But it shouldn't be. He also fought just now, but the opponent still left. But in the end, it came back to wait for him. The last thing it used was the demon god's wings. Could it be related to demonic chi? He once again used his demonic chi to form the demonic chi armor. The overwhelming demonic power swept in all directions, and the fragments of the full moon scimitar shook violently. The endless murderous aura seemed to condense into a figure. It was a figure in a blood-red robe, like a killing god. As soon as this figure appeared, a terrifying, murderous intent locked onto Lin Xian. Lin Xian frowned. Damn it, it couldn't be related to the demon emperor, right? Sure enough, as if sensing the demonic chi behind this figure, it also condensed into the phantom of the demon emperor. As soon as he appeared, countless people were terrified. Damn it, another phantom appeared. There was an expert behind this brat. The surrounding quasi-emperors felt their scalps go numb. Even the sole emperor's daughter was surprised. What kind of changes would happen next? Lin Xian's brows were tightly knitted together. The devil emperor really had a lot of enemies back then. The half-frog from before was related to the demon emperor, and now the owner of this extreme weapon fragment was also related to the demon emperor. In his heart, he asked DeLong, who was the devil emperor in the past, how many enemies were there? DeLong said he had already become a demon, so he had no misgivings when doing things. Back then, he seemed to have become the enemy of the entire world. Lin Xian's face darkened. Why did he feel that cultivating the illusion demon scripture was a huge trap? Who are you? I have no enmity with you. I am no longer the demon emperor from back then. Lin Xian said coldly. I am the moon goddess. That figure also spoke. It was actually a woman, which surprised everyone. Lin Xian was even more surprised. Moon goddess? The other party was indeed arrogant for daring to come up with such a name. However, from this, it could be seen that this woman was at least a martial monarch back then. Was such a person also an enemy of the devil emperor? You're not him. You've cultivated his cultivation method. The moon goddess in front of him said coldly. However, the killing intent in her eyes didn't seem to disappear, which made Lin Xian's hair stand on end. Lin Xian said, I'm indeed not the devil emperor, so what enmity did we have back then? I don't know either. Lin Xian really didn't know. He didn't even know if the moon goddess was from the Permitha realm. However, the moon palace was so strange now. If it fought with a martial monarch's phantom, who knew what would happen? Of course, if the other party insisted on fighting, Lin Xian wasn't afraid. At most, it would be a fight. Enmity? The moon goddess suddenly sneered. Her voice made one's soul tremble. Even though you're not him, you've still cultivated his cultivation method. Furthermore, you've even condensed an illusion of him. I don't believe that he's really dead. I want to see if he will come to save you in the end. The moon goddess wanted to attack. The surrounding fragments of the full moon blade exploded with terrifying killing intent. Lin Xian's face changed. You want to fight? I'll accompany you to the end. He snorted coldly. The sky-devouring jar swallowed the sky and earth, blocking the fragments of the extreme weapon. At this moment, the moon goddess in front of him slapped with her palm. You're still too young. You're no match for me. Feeling the power of this palm, Lin Xian didn't dare to be careless. He condensed sword qi in his hands and slashed out. The power of the great dragon sword soul exploded. With a clang, he blocked the palm. The moon goddess retracted her palm and looked in front of her with incomparable surprise. The power of the great dragon sword. You actually have it? She was really shocked. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Although I'm not a quasi-emperor, it won't be that easy for you to catch me. The sword qi on his body became more and more terrifying, as if it was going to pierce through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. At this moment, he seemed to have transformed into a supreme sword god. What an arrogant kid. I want to see how far you can use the power of the great dragon sword. The moon goddess phantom took a step forward and was about to attack. At this moment, another shocking attack came from the depths of the moon palace. The collision of extreme weapons caused the entire moon palace to shake violently. The moon goddess turned her head and looked into the distance. Her brows furrowed slightly. At the same time, there seemed to be a heavenly sound between heaven and earth. Is it summoning me? The moon goddess was stunned. Chapter 5642. Moon Palace, the Mysterious Ocean. The Dragon Queen's expression became extremely ugly. Although she had the 10,000 dragons picture, the other party also had the Seven Wonders ancient tree. It was not weaker than an extreme Dao weapon. Therefore, she didn't have the upper hand at all. More importantly, she was still frozen by the God Crystal and hadn't woken up yet. And the other party was one of the masters of the Moon Palace. If they continued fighting, she would probably be suppressed. So she snorted coldly. Guang Hanxian, I'll ask you one last time. Are you really not willing to cooperate? No. The goddess statue in front of her said coldly, Fine, just you wait. When Brother Tian returns, he will flatten your Moon Palace. The Brother Tian she was talking about was naturally the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Queen still believed that the Dragon Emperor was not dead, and he should be in the depths of the deity ground. Even if the Dragon Emperor comes, my answer will be the same. The Guang Hanxian in front of her said coldly, Humph, let's go. The Dragon Queen turned around and left with the people of the 10,000 Dragons court. The 10,000 Dragons picture turned into a divine dragon that shattered heaven and earth and disappeared. The mysterious ocean fell silent again, and the goddess statue in front of her whispered. Just now, she seemed to have sensed the aura of the demon emperor. Was he here too? In the next moment, lightning flashed in her eyes, turning into two streaks of immortal chi that pierced through heaven and earth. She looked into the distance. She saw a man in the Moon Palace, surrounded by demonic chi, that was slowly disappearing. For Crown King's cultivation shouldn't be that of the demon emperor. Was he a successor? The Guang Hanxian didn't care at first. It was normal for a great emperor to have a successor. But when she saw Lin Xian's appearance, her body trembled. How was that possible? The statue on her body quickly shattered, and then a beautiful woman walked out. This woman was like a fairy of the moon. She had a cold aura about her. Her beautiful face was unprecedented in the human world. How could it be him? In the next moment, she held the Seven Wonders ancient tree and waved it gently. A streak of immortal chi flew out. Outside, after the moon god left, the surrounding people heaved a sigh of relief. How was that the moon god? She was simply a god of death. Lin Xian also frowned. What was the moon god's relationship with the Palace of Bones? He couldn't help but feel that the other party's killing intent was simply too terrifying. Just as he was about to ask DeLong, the void suddenly split open again, and a terrifying power emerged. This power wasn't any weaker than an extreme weapon. The moment he appeared, the surrounding quasi-emperors vomited blood and were sent flying. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. Was the moon goddess here again? They had gone too far. He roared angrily and threw out the sky-devouring jar. At the same time, sword chi swept out. It collided with the terrifying light. With a loud clang, Lin Xian's chi and blood roiled as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was dumbfounded. What kind of power was this? It was too scary. The great dragon sword soul was invincible, but it was unable to break through the other party's defenses. The great dragon in his body said. This was immortal energy, immortal chi. Lin Xian was astonished. Only great emperors had immortal energy. Had a living great emperor made a move? It was too unbelievable. Whether it was the frog that had been sealed or the moon god, they were both incomplete emperors. But now, was a real great emperor about to make a move? Immortal energy descended like chains, shrouding Lin Xian. In the next moment, he was taken away. Boom, boom. The void shattered, and it took a long time for it to slowly recover. The surrounding quasi-emperors raised their heads, their faces filled with horror. Was it a great emperor who made a move? It was too unbelievable. Let's go. Let's escape. We can't stay in the Moon Palace. Previously, they were here to search for treasures, but now they realized that the Moon Palace was even more terrifying than hell. They desperately wanted to leave. Where was Lin Gongzi? Quasi-Emperor Mandala and the others were also shocked. Kaiser Blood said, "It seemed that he had been taken away by the great emperor. It was over. He was doomed." Although they had seen Lin Xian's miraculous abilities compared to a great emperor, everything was nothing. No matter how strong Lin Xian was, he couldn't defeat a great emperor. The 6 quasi-emperors shook their heads and sighed. A top genius had fallen, and they could only leave. Lin Xian was also shocked when he was shrouded by immortal energy. The great emperor attacked him again. Was this the power of a great emperor? It was too unbelievable. Even if he used the heaven-swallowing jar and other extreme weapons, he couldn't block it. However, the other party didn't kill him, but took him away. Why? Did the great emperor of the Permitha realm want to seal him again? Lin Xian's face was incomparably cold. If it was really the Permitha realm, then he would risk his life to enter the sword world and use all his strength to resist. He wouldn't be sealed again. Dalong said, "Kid, don't act rashly. It might not be someone from the Permitha realm." In the next moment, the void broke open, and a stream of immortal energy brought Lin Xian into the front. Lin Xian stopped and looked around. It was empty and dark all around, and there was a mysterious sea in front of him. Above the mysterious sea stood a beautiful figure. She looked like a fairy from the moon. Beside her was an ancient tree with a mysterious aura surrounding it. It was very similar to the one beside Lin Xian, an ancient tree surrounded by immortal energy. This was an extreme weapon. Lin Xian was shocked. Then, this woman must be the great emperor. Guanghan Celestial waved her hand, and the immortal energy brought Lin Xian in front of her. The two of them were less than 10 meters apart. Lin Xian sensed the aura in front of him. He asked solemnly, "Who are you? Are you from the Permitha realm?" Guanghan Celestial didn't reply. She just stared at Lin Xian and didn't stop. This made Lin Xian's hair stand on end. "Who are you?" Lin Xian hollered in rage like a dragon's roar. 10,000 dragons roared. Guanghan Celestial frowned. "Why do you have the aura of the dragon path? If she wasn't wrong, he couldn't have it." Lin Xian scoffed coldly. "I have the aura of the dragon path. So what?" He stepped forwards, and dragon-shaped sword energy exploded. A terrifying aura roared in all directions. It was actually the power of the great dragon sword. "It seems like you aren't from the 10,000 Dragon Court. You know about the 10,000 Dragon Court? Was the Dragon Queen fighting with you just now?" Lin Xian was shocked too. His eyes had the power of reincarnation as he looked around to capture the aura. As expected, he saw the aura of the 10,000 dragons diagram. The Dragon Queen was here just now. Great dragon sword, eye of reincarnation. You really have many things on you. Guanghan Celestial was shocked. "Let me ask you, do you know Lin Zhan? Where is he?" Lin Xian was stunned. "You know my father?" He was really stunned. Could it be that this was his father's enemy in the past? "You are Lin Zhan's son?" Guanghan Celestial frowned. After not seeing him for so many years, did he already get married and have children? A cold light appeared in her eyes, piercing through the 9 heavens. Lin Xian's blood boiled. The devouring vortex around him seemed to have been split open. "Who are you? Do you have a grudge against my father?" "Humph, don't even think about suppressing me and threatening my father. I will leave even if I have to risk my life." Dragon scales appeared on Lin Xian's body. He wanted to merge with the dragon soul and tear apart the sky. Guanghan Celestial didn't attack. Mist appeared in her eyes. Suddenly, she hollered, "Lin Zhan, why didn't you wait for me?" You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.